Hey guys,
Hey
thank
guys,
you for being patient.
thanks.
Per the usual, I really swear I'm going to work on getting my crap together.
No, listen, please excuse my voice. My allergies, the pollen here is terrible. So it's like, whew.
Well, we were going to do this. Thanks, Crystal. We were going to do this yesterday, of course. Beth has a stomach flu, but she is a trooper and she's powering through tonight. So she's awesome for that. Poor thing. But I think you're feeling a little better, aren't you?
Yes, much better. Thank you.
Than yesterday, we were worried if we went live.
That was bad. I'm really sorry, guys. I like never get sick. And all of a sudden I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sick. This is crazy. What bad timing? But
Poor thing. I'm glad you feel better.
yes.
So for those of you who don't normally watch us, I'm Vanessa with Unmasked. This is Beth. And we do kind of these little smaller hangouts every Wednesday. The link to our Patreon's in the description. Otherwise, I'm kind of excited because we're going to start doing these deep dives every other weekend. And then on those other alternate weekends, I'm going to be dropping some new documentaries. And I have one dropping this weekend. So, well, as in next Friday. So I'm excited about that. So anyway, look forward to that. I was like, Vanessa, you got to get it crap together. You got to get more documentaries out. So I'm excited that I actually have 1.5 done in advance. So
Yay.
thank God, finally getting it together.
I don't know how you do them. You're so good at that.
Forever, but I love doing them. I love them. Hey, Cement Shoes. Hey to all the new people.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, Miscellaneous. Hey, Maui Girl. Hey,
I have
Marshall.
to look right here to see you guys comment. So,
and this is a really interesting case. For those of you who watch us all the time, I say this pretty much every live, but I'm pretty much an idiot savant with dates. I don't know why. I mean, I cannot remember, as you know, anything. But anytime there's a case, I remember the date and it just sticks in my brain with that. And this is a big one because it's the 40-year anniversary. Hey, Dave, this month, April 11th, it was 1981. And the reason I wanted to do this one, and well, Beth and I became basically obsessed with it. But the reason we wanted to do this one is because I heard it described or saw it described today, and it's perfect. It said ice cold case turning, warming up again. So there's a good chance we could actually see this case solved in the near future. They reopened it and they've got some new evidence and things like that. And the forensics are different, obviously, now than they were in 1981. So it's kind of exciting that we might actually see some answers, and it'd be good for the people, for the families, I think.
Yes. So good. I can't imagine, having gone that long without closure. It's just, because and we'll get into too, the complications of the case. Yeah. But I don't know, just to kind of have a feeling that possibly who did it and that they're not in prison. I would really hope for the family that happens for sure.
Yeah, me too. Hey, Sharon in California. Hey, Linz. Hey. I totally agree. It's so interesting. And if you guys have never heard of it, I'm sure a lot of you followed it. But exactly, Leah. For those of you who follow it, it's just so interesting. And it's like all the good kind of cases that are interesting and captivating. It has so many rumors, so many, I don't even know what to call it. It's a very layered case. And part of the reason is because the town was so small. Mm-hmm. I was trying to find the exact number, but some of the census I read was like less than 100 people in this town. When I say everyone knows everyone, everybody knows everyone, is connected to everyone. Yeah. Which, as you know, is hard to have an objective investigation when that's the case, and definitely was not done in this case. Oh, hey, Tammy. Cement Shoes. I love your name.
I love it.
So
I see all the people I love. Hey, guys.
I know. Hey, to you. So what I wanted to do, and sorry, I'm going to have to look down at my notes. We have a ton of notes because there's so much stuff that,
guys.
We're going to have to probably reference them a little bit. We've done,
next. Well, there's so much misinformation as well about this case, which is what's hard, because it's a small town. There's so many connections, so many people telling different stories, different things. So it's really hard to keep it all straight because there's certain, you'll hear one certain thing from this article, you know, and another thing from this article. So it's kind of like trying to peel back the layers and get the exact correct information, which this is one of those cases that it's difficult.
I agree. And so there's kind of a big cast of characters, and since we're doing a live setting, I'm going to give you a little bit of background because it's important because it's a quadruple murder. And obviously this is a disturbing case, just so you know, heads up, there's children involved in it. And I didn't know until kind of recently that this movie is what inspired The Strangers. I did
Me
not,
neither.
which that movie really disturbs me.
Me
I have
too.
trouble with that one.
I could not believe that. I don't know why I just didn't put it together, but
Yeah.
it's disturbing.
It came out, and I just looked it up, 2008. That movie is messed up if you guys haven't seen it. But it's good if you like really dark, awful, horrible movies.
Yeah.
You like that one.
If you like the stuff that we do, you will really like this movie.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you, Amanda G.
Thanks, Amanda.
So, okay, let's see where we're going to start so you guys can understand because it's so interesting. But I want to give you a little bit of background and hey, Kayla, of the people involved. So, like we said, it was April 11th. We just passed the 40-year anniversary of 1981. My God, so long ago. And it was in Keddie, California. If you guys don't know where that is, if you're looking at the state, it's like the northeastern part. Yeah, I would say not far from Nevada. And it's tiny, tiny rural town. And so kind of how this starts out, actually doesn't start out in California. The Sharp family originally lived in Connecticut. And Sue Sharp is how she went. Her name was Glenna, but she went by Sue. Was married. She was in an abusive relationship, and she had 5 kids. And she divorced her husband, packed up all 5 of her kids, and drove from Connecticut to Keddie, California to be with her, well, actually Quincy first, to be with her brother, Don. So she just wanted to be near family. She had a lot on her plate being a single mom back then with 5 children. Oh, thank you, Man Candy.
Thank you.
She drove there. She was going to be with her brother, Don. Well, Don lived in a 1-bedroom trailer in Quincy, California. So you can imagine what that was like to have 6 people in a 1-bedroom trailer structure. It wasn't even like an actual trailer. It was like a structure on his property that he had. And so it was way too cramped. So basically a few months later, they were able to get into the Keddie cabins. And back at one time, the Keddie cabins were like a resort where people would go and stay, but it had gotten kind of dumpy and run down, and the town ran out of money. So they turned it into low-income housing. So they were able to move in to a 3-bedroom cabin, even though it was all run down. It felt huge to them. It had an unfinished basement. They had room to spread out. So it was much better than the original, 1-bedroom trailer that they were in. Oh, I didn't know there was a part 2 to Strangers.
Really? I didn't know that either.
There's a part 2.
Strangers that Prey at Night.
To check that out. So anyway, and I guess we should go through the kids because this is important. And like I said, just to give you a heads up, there are kids involved in these murders, and it's really disturbing. We're going to tell you guys as many details as we can. And then I have some links below, and we're going to have some pictures too. Love you, Teresa, for doing that. Okay.
Thanks,
so I know she's the best. I did not want to do more than one thing at a time. She knows this. She knows me. Okay. So we'll go through their kids. This is important. And I thought the room setup, we'll get to this in a minute, was a little bit strange.
It was.
Maybe I'm stuck on it for a weird reason, but it's a little bit weird. But we'll go over that. So she's got John, went by Johnny, who was 15.
Mm-hmm.
She's got Sheila, who was 14. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I know you've got a great memory. Tina, who was 12. Rick, who was 10. And Greg, who was 5. And Glenna, or Sue, was 36. So she had her plate full, to say the least. And when she moved to Quincy, originally, she got on welfare, food stamps. Apparently, that was not a very common thing back in that time. So when they moved 7 miles away to Keddie, she was not welcomed from what I read. She was not liked. She was not treated very well.
Seems like they were very judgmental of
I
her.
agree.
From when I go back in and I'm watching these interviews and documentaries and I'm seeing people in Keddie interviewed and things, sometimes I really do think like, wow, you were extremely judgmental about that. But of course I wasn't there, but it does seem that way. It seems like.
Yeah. And even Beth and I were talking about this last night. There was this one interview, and I know we watched a bunch of them, but they were really, even after what's happened to the family and after the murders, they were really still kind of snotty about
It's
her.
weird. I know that town. I'm telling you, that town's got some snoots in it.
I agree, because even
she
after,
didn't take very good care of it. You know?
Yeah, they snuck these months, like Beth said, like, well, we didn't let our kids go over there, and we didn't really. They could come over here, but we weren't about to let them go over there. And we'll get into more of the rumors that came out later that were kind of upsetting, but that were completely unsubstantiated from what I could find. Basically, she was kind of a loner. She had a lot on her plate. She didn't have a lot of time to socialize. She had the 5 kids. She was going to school with a federal grant. She wanted to open up a small business and just kind of settle down in this quiet town and raise her kids. But there was a lot of rumor that she went out all the time, which I could not find any of.
Me neither.
Leslie, you might want to see if Teresa's having trouble getting on, because I feel like she might be.
Thanks, Linz.
I was reading Sandra Day's comments. Are you near Keddie, Sandra D? Oh, thank you, Linz Marie. So yeah, it was just, and I'm not saying anything derogatory about the town itself.
No,
but
it just seemed like the people they interviewed in regards within the town, the people they interviewed seemed to be very opinionated about that.
Whereas, like, I think now it's more understood that she was a single mom working really hard to care for her 5 children.
Exactly.
That would be a really stressful financial situation, a stressful living situation.
Very.
So it was just interesting. So this is where these little details, though, are important, because it's like all kind of, which I love cases like this. It's all pieces of a puzzle. And you're going to see why. And I guess we'll say allegedly, everything in this that we're about to say is allegedly in our opinions. Don't come for us.
That's right. And well, with this case, it is hard to sit and say anything. Like, we could say something and you could come back and say, no, wait, I read in this article that it actually was a ball of tape in her mouth. Okay, well, that's what you're going to get with this case. It's a lot of mixed details. You know, the police investigation wasn't what it should have been. So a lot of this will be in our opinion, or as we have read. As we have found.
Curious Rose, it does have really odd family dynamics and stuff in it. It's one of those that's really interesting, you guys. There's just, I don't know, I love these cases that are so, and I am excited because I do think that this new sheriff might be the one to solve it.
Me too.
Which will be interesting to see. But so going back to here, and I gotta grab my notes really quick, but going back to when they moved, so it was November of 1981 when they moved into these cabins. And it was kind of run down, and we'll pull up some pictures in a little bit, but it felt really big to them. And so here's the setup, because this is important to what happened that night. It's pretty much straight out of a horror movie. You've got Johnny, who's the oldest son, living in the unfinished basement. You've got then the 2 little boys, Rick and Greg, that are 10 and 5, sharing a room. Because remember, there's 3 bedrooms. You've got, this is what I thought was weird. You've got the mom, Sue, and Tina, the 12-year-old, sharing a bedroom. And then you have the 14-year-old Sheila had her own room. I don't know. I guess I would figure the 2 girls would have a room and the mom would have her own room.
I know.
I feel like that lends more to the fact that she didn't have men over and wasn't doing the things that she was.
So do I.
You know what I mean?
I think that too.
Yeah, because she's not going to have it. It was a crowded house, and she was actually sleeping in a bed with her 12-year-old every night.
I totally agree.
Yeah. So it's just an interesting little, I don't know why I'm like hung up on that. I'm like, why did Sheila have her own room?
I know. Me too. It's
like
the weirdest things in cases. You'll be like, why did that happen on a Sunday? You know, you just have all these questions.
Same way. Thank you, Tammy. I got stuck in mine. That's a whole nother story. for like 15 minutes before the live. It's complicated. Talks are hard. Anyways, so okay. So they moved into the cabins. He's seeking the truth with Dave. And that was kind of the setup. Now, this is the one piece that's really important to remember. So it does look small for more than one person, but it actually felt, from what they came from, it was much bigger. So before they moved into cabin 28, and we're going to give you the setup of how this was because this will be important. The sheriff of the county of Plumas County lived in that cabin that they moved into. Weird coincidence. So Sheriff, it's Thomas, lived in cabin 28 before they did. And so remember that, because I think that's really, really important. I agree, Curious Rose, and I'm hoping that they're going to solve it soon. So they move into the sheriff's old cabin. And then Beth knows kind of like the line of neighbors that went down. And these cabins are really close together.
Yeah, they are. It's like it was like you have cabin 28, which is the Sharps. And then you have cabin 27, which is the Seabolts, which they'll play a role. That'll be. And then you had cabin 26, which was the Smarts, who are also going to play a really big role. So basically, the two of the biggest players lived right there. And then, these, and I don't think these cabins were extremely far apart. It didn't seem like when they were discussing going back and forth from one, like, we'll get into it, but like Tina leaving and walking home at that time of night, I would assume that was fairly close.
Yes.
So I think all these people were pretty close together right in there.
That's my understanding too. And so it is, Lena. It's really sad. So, well, this is where, I mean, and we'll be wanting to know your opinions on it when we're done and your theories, because I know a lot of you are messaging me about how you have really definitive ideas on this case. Thank you, Jeanette.
Oh, yeah, I want to hear them too.
So I definitely want to hear from you, but I do have kind of a I don't know, I think Beth and I have similar opinions, but, and we'll get to why the sheriff, I think it matters that he lived there. There's some weird stuff. Anyway, he's now in his late 70s, I believe, the sheriff, and he's very defensive about the investigation, obviously, but that's a whole other thing we'll get to. Anyway, so basically that day, so it was a Saturday.
Thank you, Taylor.
Oh, thank you. And we'll go through the timeline. Do you want to do that of April 11th? I think we should.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. So on April 11th, 1981, again, it was pretty much a normal Saturday. Now you have to think, this is back in 81 in a tiny town of like less than 100 people. So basically the kids were outside all day. This is back in the days. I remember that myself, where if it was light outside, your butt was outside. And then like my mom would come outside and whistle when the sun went down. And that was, I don't know how they did that, because I could not do that with my kids. Now
that's the way we did it too.
360, like, where are you?
I know.
Back in the day, it was like, all right, see you, Vanessa, when the sun comes down.
And now we can track our kids, like, oh, they're walking.
Right? And I'd be like, why are you 60 feet from Michelle's house when you said you were at Michelle's house? It's so weird. Not that I do that. Anyways, so I just don't know. It's just such a weird time. But no one locked their doors there. And it was just a safe place. You didn't have to lock your doors. You didn't have to worry about any of that stuff. All the kids in the cabins played together. They all knew each other, spent the night at each other's houses. And what I read is they would just walk in and out of each other's houses without knocking. It was pretty friendly, open environment. Yep. So, Lynn, Teresa's here. She's working some magic behind the scenes for us. She knows I can't walk and chew gum at the same time, so she stepped in to help.
I can't either, so
she's like, bless your heart, Vanessa, I'm going to help you tonight. Okay, so we're going to do the timeline of April 11th. So exactly, Lena, like that was back. My mom had this whistle, and you knew when my mom whistled or yelled my name. That was it. We'd play hide and go seek in the dark, and then we'd be inside. Or go-karts or whatever we were doing that was probably super dangerous at the time.
Oh yeah.
But it was like that kind of Saturday. Her kids were scattered everywhere. Hey, researcher. They were scattered everywhere. So around 11:30 a.m., Sue, who's the mom again, I'm going to repeat this a little bit because for those of you who don't know who everybody is important.
And a lot of times you'll hear her called Glenna too, which was
Yeah.
confusing to me at first. And so sometimes it'll be like Glenna, sometimes it'll be Sue, sometimes it'll be Glenna Sue. So I just say Sue, but it kind of confused me a little bit that some people say Glenna. I don't know. So.
I know, and she wanted to be called Sue, so I'm just going to call her Sue.
We'll call her Sue.
Right, Missy? It was that whistle, and you knew your butt better get home. She didn't have to whistle twice.
I know.
One whistle, and I was in that house.
You were like, there it is.
Yep. Life was much different back then. Because, yeah, especially growing up in like an Italian family and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, you get the spoon. You don't get inside. Anyway. So around 11:30 that morning, Sue and her 14-year-old daughter, Sheila, and Greg, who is the 5-year-old. Mm-hmm. So they drove from their friend's house and they went and picked up the 10-year-old who was doing baseball exactly, Missy, baseball tryouts. And so while they went to the baseball tryouts, they happened to see her oldest son. And this was also when hitchhiking was the norm, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can imagine.
It's so weird. Everybody used to hitchhike. That's like so weird to me. In all these cases you hear like people hitchhiking, I'm like, I would never hitchhike.
I know, and it's weird because in 1981, if you'll remember, is after Ted Bundy.
It was. And Manson and all of that, yeah.
Yeah, with all the hitchhikers. And so you'd think after the 70s, no one would hitchhike. But anyway, everyone hitchhiked at this point. So she saw her own son hitchhiking. So she gave him a ride with his friend Dana Wingate. And Dana was 17. He was kind of known as a troubled kid. I don't want to say anything derogatory. He was 17. He was a kid, right?
Yes.
So for a 17-year-old, he was known, hey, Chippy Hick. Why was that hard for me to say? Thank you. I appreciate that. So he was, I guess, for his age, but I feel bad because his parents are so frustrated and they still make statements. As of now, his parents still make statements. So with all due respect, that was just a town, whatever.
The same with the same way that they did with Sue.
Yes. Okay, so in this picture, you've got Sue. Johnny is on the top right.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that's Dana on the bottom right.
Yep.
And Tina on the bottom left.
Yep.
Who was 12. And that's the part you need to remember because it's so sad what happened to Tina. Anyway, so they picked him up. They brought him back to Keddie, and then they ended up leaving Keddie again for whatever reason and they're just kind of like hopping back and forth. Boys are bored, they're doing whatever. So, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Thanks.
So then basically you're at 3:30 in the afternoon. The last time the boys are seen publicly, Johnny and his friend Dana Wingate are seen in downtown Quincy, which is 7 miles away. And, there's going to be all these rumors. I have no idea if they're true or not, that Dana, and maybe you know better than I do, Beth, there's something with acid that maybe Dana had ripped some people off or something.
There was a rumor that there was a drug deal gone wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
with acid. And honestly, there's a lot of drugs that you'll hear a lot about drugs in this case. There's rumors that Sue was on drugs. There's, all kinds of different things. And then, some of the major players definitely have to do with drugs. So, but yeah, that's what I had heard too. I don't know that wasn't like substantiated, but that's what I read.
Yeah. And from what we read, and again, allegedly don't come for us. This is just based on our research. It did seem like it was an oppressed area at that time, that there were a lot of drugs and kind of interesting connections, you might say, and dynamics going on there in and out of that town.
Mm-hmm.
Put it that way. Yeah, I think we'll leave it. I don't know. Basically, interesting connections. And so it gets interesting around 8 p.m. And so Sheila left the cabin to go next door. The 14-year-old we're talking about. She had plans to spend the night in the Siebold residence that was cabin 27 right next door. Now this is kind of sad too. I hate these. I'm a big person. I talked about this in the Richard Ramirez documentary, those like last minute decisions that change the course of your entire life. It's kind of like sliding doors. I don't know. I always get stuck on those, but Tina wanted to spend the night over there with Sheila. She was begging to spend the night. And I can't remember, do you, Beth, if it was her mom, Sue, or if it was Sheila herself who said, no, you can't. We don't want you here.
From what I understood, Sheila was the one that told her to go home.
Sure.
But I also read in another that she wanted to go home. So I don't know. I read that in one part I read was that Tina was wanting to go home because she wanted to stay the night at home. But then I also read that Sheila told her she didn't want her to stay.
Right.
So I'm not exactly sure which one of those, but I do know that, you know, she definitely left there at 9:30,
Right.
headed home.
Marshall, she does look like Sue looks like a tough chick. I agree with you. She looks like she didn't put up with much.
Yeah. She put up a big fight. We'll talk about that too. I mean, she was.
Yeah, she was no wuss, that's for sure. Hey, Jade. Hi, Janjoya. So, yeah, we'll definitely want your opinions later. So, around that, this is the kind of important time frame, and this is where it gets weird because you've got, of course, like everything else, like the rumors, you've got differing witness accounts that are completely different and just made another layer of complication for everything. And that's the back view, by the way, of Keddie Cabin. That's the backyard. So you can kind of see, and then they had the unfinished basement back there. So basically around 9:30, I think it was, Tina left cabin 27 and walked next door home, and she basically went right to bed.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty much, so if you look at the timeline, they'll tell you that the murders happened between 9:30 p.m. and I think it's 2:30 a.m.
Yeah.
Is the window. Some people say they saw a green van parked outside their house around 9:30, but then other people said it was a brown car. So again, crappy witness statement.
Right.
And then Beth brought up a good point last night. There's not a lot known from my understanding. Again, we probably looked at like 25 different
everything we could. Hours and hours, guys.
Yeah. And they're all different. I know, right, Lauren? The yellow houses. I didn't even think about that. If you guys know about the Night Stalker, he killed people in yellow houses.
I know.
His Keddie cabin's yellow in the back. How weird. So anyway, she gets home around 9:30. She goes to bed, and not a lot is known about who Dana, the friend who's 17, and Johnny, 15, hitchhiked home with.
No, all that's known is that around between 9:30 and 10, a passerby saw them hitchhiking.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't exactly know who they hitchhiked with. We have no idea, but we know that they hitchhiked back. Just we don't have any idea with who. Right. There was a couple of, there's going to be some characters in this that we can tell you guys to look up. They've pretty much, their testimonies have pretty much been proven wrong. But in this case, I don't know, you might want to look into them. You've got like the Meeks and Philip Shearer, and there's some other characters that, have a different thing of events. But this is the best that we can give you the exact. We have no idea. We know for a fact that they were hitchhiking between 9:30 and 10. Yep. And that's really all we know. And as far as Alyssa Siebold that lived next door that Sheila was staying the night with, there's a kind of a rumor too that, and this confused me about Tina coming home, but Sheila staying. It was kind of talked about that possibly Sheila and Dana kind of had something going on, and that possibly John and Alyssa kind of had something going on because, Mrs. Siebold, Alyssa's mom, had stated profusely that she would allow them to come to her house and stay. She would not allow her daughter to go to Sue's house and stay. So that confused me, as in, like, why wouldn't Sheila go home if she knew that Dana was going to be there? So I'm not sure about all that, but regardless, it's one of those things. Sheila stayed and Tina went home. So, and then I guess the boys came with whoever picked them up.
It's interesting. Yeah, I agree. Curious Rose, if you, no, it's and again, we're not going to get into, if you just do a quick Google search, you will see, we're trying to be careful with some of the stuff we say, because a lot of, the people we're talking about are still alive, watch all of this stuff. So we're trying to be kind of sensitive in that way, but there are a lot of kind of weird things, a lot of rumors still going around. So, but we're going to put out, as much as we can without obviously defaming anyone. So then you get to past 9:30, and this is where it gets really interesting because not a lot is known of what happened between, like Beth said, 9:30 and 10, and I think it's 1:30 in the morning. At 1:30 in the morning, their neighbors hear muffled screams coming from the house.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing that's important to mention is they always kept their blinds open.
Yep.
Never come into play. Like these cabins were like airy and open, and
Mm-hmm.
there wasn't. So around 1:32 a.m., neighbors do report that they heard screams. They actually got up out of bed, went, looked around outside, couldn't see anything. So they just went back to bed.
Yep.
I feel like with all the, and especially we're talking about Maya Millet's case, if you guys hear screams at night, it's probably best to just call 911. Yeah. Because we've seen that so much recently. The whole, oh, we heard some bangs or some gunshots or screaming, and we just went back to bed. It's like,
Yeah.
hey, just call. I don't know. Weird. Anyway, so they went back to bed, and that was it until 7 a.m. So 7 a.m., which to me seems really early, especially at 14. Like Sheila, I rarely saw 7 a.m. unless it was a school day. But Sheila gets up at 7 a.m. and decides to go home. She walks up her stairs, and this is so horrific that it was, I mean, again, she's 14 years old. She walks up the stairs into her home and sees, and this is what was so upsetting. I'm going to be careful with the way to describe this, but she opened her front door, and it was so horrific and so just bloody and horrific. She didn't even know what she was looking at.
She said the smell was terrible.
Mm-hmm.
So she said,
Oh,
which is
God.
weird. You know, they hadn't, it's not that they had been there for that long, but I think you, with this scene that extreme, I think you can probably tell yourself that she described odor, that it was,
Yeah.
that when she opened the door, the smell was the first thing that she was like, what is wrong?
And here's a good,
And then,
Teresa, this is the crime scene, one of the photos.
perfect.
So basically, she walks in and she notices, and I'll let Beth go more into the crime scene because she knows more about the actual crime scene. But you can see right there that the drapes are pulled closed. What I understand, the lights were turned off, the telephone was taken off the hook, and there was blood. I mean, this is not representative of what it looked like at
No,
all. Apparently, the entire room was, it was spattered, and this is just one shot.
everywhere.
It was everywhere. And she didn't even know what she was looking at because she couldn't make anything out. She just saw bodies. She actually didn't even know whose body she was looking at the time. It's so horrible.
She said their neck, and she could tell like the neck and the face was so caked with blood, which now that we know what the injuries were, you know, it makes more sense. But I mean, she said it, you just couldn't even see it. It was just like so much, which there was blood on the floor, on the ceiling, on the bedroom doors. I mean, it was everywhere, all over the couch. They were definitely killed in the living room, but it was everywhere.
Yeah.
It was so violent.
Yeah, Cinnamon, and we're going to talk about that because there's some really interesting things going on. But she ran back to the Siebold's house.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think, Beth, if you want to, thank you, researcher.
She sent their brother Jamie, the Seabolt's brother Jamie, over, and Ricky and Greg, the two younger boys, and Justin Eason, who is a friend of theirs that lived in cabin 26 with Marty and Marilyn Smart. Marilyn Smart was his mother, and Marty Smart was his stepfather. Justin had just moved to Keddie from living with his dad in Montana to move in with his mom and Marty. Now, Marty Smart, if you know about this case, is going to be probably one of the biggest players in it. So, so Justin was there. So when Jamie came over, he went back. The boys, he said, were undisturbed. I know that the television was playing in the boys' room, but he actually took them out the bedroom window so that they didn't have to see what was in the living room. And at this point, they weren't sure that the boys had seen anything, which we can get into that. But as far as the crime scene itself, let's see, the Sue was naked except for a robe, and she had her underwear put into her mouth along with a blue bandana. I did read on separate sources, some said it was a ball of tape, but predominantly it is said that it is a blue bandana. So that's what I'm going to go with. They had used medical tape, which was not found in the house. This had been brought to the house to tape her, but they had used cords and extension cords from the house to bind them. So she had been beaten with a claw hammer. She had also been stabbed horizontally in the neck, which in all actuality, it nicked her spine. And she had also been stabbed multiple times in the body. And then the two boys were bound together. John had experienced severe stab wounds and severe blunt force trauma with a hammer. And Dana had experienced blunt force trauma, but he had actually been strangled, which I thought he was never stabbed. And there were two knives at the scene, one steak knife that was bent at like a 30-degree angle. It was so forceful and horrific that, I mean, the knife was bent. And then there was another knife that was found and a hammer that was found on a little wooden table that was in the kitchen. They know there were two hammers that were used because the hammer that was used on John and Sue is not the same hammer that was used on Dana, which makes me feel like someone else killed Dana.
Right.
It makes me feel like someone killed them using one certain hammer and then someone killed Dana, because Dana also wasn't stabbed. He was beaten with a hammer and then he was strangled. So you had all of that. One of the most heinous things, there was even literally knife marks in the walls. They said it looked like someone had been throwing knives at like a target, like standing and literally throwing knives at the walls. That perplexed me. Like, how do you get knife prints in the walls? It was so confusing to me. But the boys were bound as well with cords that had been found around the house. But the tape is important because it wasn't brought to the house. And this is where it's going to get strange. So Justin Eason, just to remind you, he was the 12-year-old that was staying the night with both of Sue's boys. His stepdad is Martin Smart. The only print that they were able to distinguish and the only DNA that was found was Justin, the 12-year-old, Justin's DNA.
Weird.
And it was found on the piece of tape that was used to bind Sue's mouth. And they also found a bloody fingerprint on a railing outside and a bloody footprint, but there were no other fingerprints in that house. So they definitely had on gloves. I think that's probably one of the biggest, if you've ever read a lot about cases where knives are used, there is generally a mixed amount of blood of both the victim and the killer. So not seeing that really leads me to premeditation. Anytime I think, okay, somebody's brought tape and they brought gloves. So that in and of itself is really makes me feel like it was premeditated. But yeah, so that's pretty much all they really had at that point. They really didn't have a lot. They knew for a fact that there was a pellet gun that had been used. They found a piece of it, but there was an indentation. Sue had been hit in the head with it. So it kind of makes me think maybe they were using that as some sort of like pretend like it was a gun. Maybe they weren't coming across like it was a pellet gun. Maybe it was to scare them. But the biggest thing that really got me is neither Dana nor John had defensive wounds on them. Sue had lots of defensive wounds. So she had fought back. And that just kind of makes me feel like maybe they came into this, which we'll talk about, some things people saw, but maybe they came into this while it was already going on. I do know for a fact that they had blood on the pads of their feet, which would indicate that they walked at some point during the struggle.
Yeah.
So I'm not exactly sure the timing, but I just have this feeling, and we'll talk about Justin's hypnosis, but you have to admit, with a scene that crazy and how heinous you could imagine that would be, how horror filled, the fact that 3 people slept peacefully in a room in a small cabin and didn't wake up, is, which now, of course, we know that, one of them had actually woken up. We think that's where the mystery gets so thick in
Yeah.
there. But yeah, so apparently Ricky and Greg never woke up during this whole entire thing. And I don't know, I think about the fact when they get older, will they come out and talk about the fact,
Yeah.
PTSD is very extreme, and I'm not sure what they can remember, what they can't, because I can't imagine what like a horror scene like that would be for kids.
I can't imagine. Amby, it's interesting you bring that up. I don't know if you guys know, I mean, if you're into true crime, you probably know Henry Lee Lucas and Otis O'Toole. They actually did look at them for these.
They did. And there was another, they did look at them. And the Zodiac, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, they did. It's really interesting. And if you can tell, if you guys follow true crime, obviously you can see that these are, if you talk about motive, the
Golden State
Sharp family did not have anything of value to take. This was not a robbery motive. There wasn't anything like that. This was an angry rage kill, overkill. And this was, it has all signs of being personal. Exactly. Yep. So then you have to look at who would have something personal against his family that had not lived there even a year. So exactly, Lena. And then she brought up the BB gun, which is interesting because they probably thought it was real, and it wasn't. And that's how they think that that's how they subdued them to get them bound. And there's all kinds of different theories. There's theories that Dana and Johnny walked in on Sue being murdered and tried to defend their mom or Johnny's mom and all kinds of stuff, but it's not really known. I mean, this is all speculation. We don't really know what happened and what the timeline was. But like Beth said, it was definitely overkill. And then I found right before actually I went on, there was some forensics there. This is where it gets really frustrating, is the investigation part. The investigation, and I will say this with all confidence, was just shoddy at best. It was ridiculous. It was so bad that one would maybe think that there was a cover up of some kind going on, because there's no way. I mean, I know this is 1981. You didn't have the forensics, and the abilities we have now, but it was intentionally horrible.
It was.
For instance, there was an unidentified fingerprint on the railing leading up to the cabin. No idea who that belongs to. I don't even know if they still
shoe print in the yard.
Right.
We didn't test anybody's shoes. We don't know.
No. And keep in mind, when the sheriff gets there, this is his old home. So, and we'll get into this in a second because I want to start with but he obviously knows the other, which he denied, which I find interesting. But I would,
and that is
right. I would assume that because he lived there, he would know the other neighbors and have friendships or some kind of relationship with those other neighbors, which there was evidence to say that he did have a friendship with them and a relationship, but yet he denies it, which is really interesting. Oh yeah, they looked at a lot of serial killers that were active at that time.
They did.
But
the Golden State was another, the Golden State killer.
But they couldn't. I know it is, Jax. It's something straight out of a horror movie.
It is.
It's so all of the rumors, exactly. This is when rumors go crazy, like with small towns, how they do. Yeah, that is true. Well, she had been abused by their dad. So they had been, Sue had been in an abusive marriage and had left Connecticut and gone to California. So I definitely would believe that. How old were the surviving children who were asleep? Okay, so the surviving children were Rick, who was 10, Greg, who was 5, and the friend Justin, Marty Smart's, stepson. How old was Justin? 12?
12.
And again, it was really odd to people how they could be in the room next sure. I think he was
12.
somewhere
Yeah.
in that, 'cause he was friends with Rick, so he had to be
Yeah.
in that 10. And it is really weird how, how they slept through it, because this could not have been a quiet crime. There's just
No
no
way.
quiet.
No
Um,
way.
so there's that interesting piece of it too, and we'll get into that. But so rumors went crazy, and this is what kind of annoys me, if anything. The townspeople, the townies there, basically, and if you've ever lived in a small town, I have, how townies stick together. And anyone that's new moving into the town is an outsider, takes a while to get in. You're that person from whatever state you're from, and they're thick as thieves. And it was kind of that kind of feel to it, because all these rumors started that she was into prostitution, that she was into drugs. There was no drugs in her body at the time of her murder. And there was
Nope.
nothing to indicate, unless she found something, that she was into prostitution or even had a boyfriend. Nothing. I know, Curious Rose, there's a fingerprint, a shoe print, like Beth said. Well, yeah. Well,
And a shoe print and
right.
blood, that bothers me too. Because you see
And
so many cases where they take a print, they could have tested people's shoes, boots, they did nothing.
So thank you, Scottish Queen. I'm getting ahead of myself. So Tina, the 12-year-old, she was not in the house. So as you know, she stayed the night there. She was missing. And they brought the FBI in pretty quickly. And they had helicopters, dogs looking for her. No trace of Tina. Just
No.
gone.
And the biggest issue, though, is that the fact that sheriff, Justin, was Tina's age, and he was trying to tell them, Tina's missing. There's somebody missing. No, you don't understand. Someone's missing. And they're like, not even paying attention. It was
Yeah.
literally like 2 hours after this had occurred that they realized, okay, we have a missing child.
Yep.
And so then the FBI came straight in. It was a big deal because it was like, we have a missing child. We could have. Yeah. I bet the FBI was frustrated.
Oh, I would assume so, because and I read that too, that the sheriff basically completely ignored the people talking to him about what was found that morning, about trying to give them information. He didn't seem to be that interested in it. From witness accounts, we're saying, what we were able to look up. And so it was interesting. It was just from the very beginning. And also you've got the Seabolt kid who came in, who admitted he possibly contaminated the crime scene.
Yes. It wasn't secured. They never even secured the crime scene.
No.
Period.
So. And was that the bloody footprint? We don't know, because he did put the boys out, and he did walk. He thinks he walked through the house, correct?
Could be. Yeah.
So that could be his footprint, but we don't know, because it's like there was literally no follow-up. I don't understand. Well, I mean, I think I do, but whatever. Allegedly, in our opinion, as we always say. Hey, Stasha. So basically, the FBI comes in, Tina's just gone. And most people, it says, if you look it up, most people just came to the kind of understanding that Tina was just gone. They were never going to know what happened to Tina. It was really sad.
So sad.
So then you get into the suspects, and almost immediately you have Marty Smart. And he was the one who lived. His son was spending the night there that night, who was not touched or bothered. And he lived 2 cabins down. Oh, yeah, the sketches. Don't even get me started on the sketches.
I mean,
I could have drawn those when I was 7. So basically, here's another interesting little tidbit. I'm jumping ahead, but they had all these resources at their disposal. They had the FBI. They had special investigators. And I'll bring that up in a minute. They had a lot of law agencies that were willing to give them their sketch artists. They chose a guy on purpose, willingly chose a guy who had 0 artistic ability and didn't do this for a living. Draw these sketches. I mean, no disrespect to the artist.
Sorry, Betty, but
yeah, exactly. This is kind of like, you ever look at Beth, those like we used to post those in the whole group, those sketches that are like hilariously bad, that it looks like a 4-year-old drew them. This reminds me of that. Basically, that looks like everyone in the 70s.
I know.
and I'm not making light of it. It's just so obvious to me researching this. There's a lot of talk about these sketches because they had really qualified people like, hey, you know, and this is what we have.
This is what we have.
Annie, they did know each other and they had been there. I don't know how. I think Beth knows how long Marty had lived in cabin 26, but they did all know each other. I mean, we're talking.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they did.
They knew each other. Yeah. Marty. Okay. Marty and his wife, Marilyn, their stepson is Justin, who was there the night of the murders. They live in cabin 26, 2 cabins down. Marty and Marilyn are married. They have apparently a very volatile, terrible, violent marriage. Okay. She talks to everybody about it, including Sue Sharp, her friend who lives at cabin 28.
Mm-hmm.
Sue, Marty, and Marilyn all took a typing class together. Sue was working at the Elks Lodge, but she was trying to take a typing class so that she could get a better job. And Marty worked as a chef at the little back door, which would basically be, if you watch Beverly Hills 90210, it would be their peach pit. It was like where everybody there
You are so cute.
hangs out. It's like the back door. They all go there. Marty works as a chef there. Well, so Marilyn had been confiding in Sue about Marty being violently abusive to her. She had 2 sons, not only Justin that was there the night of the murder, but another son. And apparently he had tried to run them over in a vehicle. So Sue, coming from an abusive situation, was really trying to give Marilyn advice. And I'm just going to be totally honest, in the midst of all of the, rumors and whatever, I think that's probably what really happened, because when they interviewed Marty is when he kind of, he made statements and stuff that messed it up for himself. But, when you hear Marilyn speak, she said Marty was angry with Sue because she had been trying to, convince me to leave him. She was giving me a lot of support in that. And I'm sure Marilyn was telling him, Sue's trying to get me to leave you, and he's getting madder and madder. So, and they had a guy that had came and stayed with them. Marty was in the Vietnam War and he had a lot of PTSD, he said, and he went over to the Veterans Hospital and he met a guy over there by the name of Bo Bubiday. And Bo came to stay in cabin 26 with Marilyn and Marty for a while. And it just so happened to be around the time, Justin had moved up from his dad's. So Justin was at the cabin that night. And there's a big thing with Justin because first he started having dreams, that he had somehow seen the murders, and he was talking about him being on a boat and Marilyn being thrown overboard. It was really strange. So it got to this point, they were like, okay, we're going to do hypnosis on you.
Yeah, this is so interesting.
So during the hypnosis, he tells them that he saw 2 men that were in the house having a conversation with Sue. As these men are having a conversation with Sue, the boys come home. So from his recollection, Dana and John came home in the middle of this, whatever was going on, altercation. The murders could have already started. I have no idea where it was at. But he said that he tried to put a blanket over Sue's head, which would make sense as to why his DNA and fingerprint could have been on that was taping her mouth, because possibly he touched that, like trying to help her. I think he's 12 years old, and I think he's probably in a state of shock. And I think he said he was the one that put the blanket on her. So, and I'm not sure if it was Tina's blanket. He said that he saw Tina come out with a blanket. He said a man chased Dana down. He tried to run. He said that Tina came out with a blanket and that they took her straight out the back door and abducted her. But you have to understand, he's had about 3 different stories.
Yep.
So even throughout, like it changes it, but also his stepfather was one of the main suspects. So, that's the biggest thing. And the reason why is because of they were going to go out that night.
Yep. And I saw a comment up there. I agree. I think hypnosis is fascinating. This case really actually made me want to look it up more.
Mm-hmm.
I've always been interested in it, but this case is, I mean, it was huge
Mm-hmm.
in this case, and it is really interesting.
It is.
So, okay. So have we got into, I had to settle and give wrenches and stuff. Have we
Oh,
got
that's fine.
into Marty's weird, suspicious statements yet?
Well, yeah. I was going to tell about how he said you can tell them about how they were going to go down there that night to the back door, and they would stop by and saw Sue, and she didn't want to go. That's what
Yes.
messed him up so bad.
I'm dying at your peach pit. You're so cute. Kind of like it's like the Peach Pit. If you guys watched 90210,
It's like where they all hang out, you know.
I'm dying.
Can't remember what it was.
Beth,
Saved by
you
the
gotta
Bell.
love her. She's so freaking cute. I can't take it. So, okay, I know out running errands. It's fascinating,
It is.
especially when you bring PTSD into it and all the circumstances that were going on that night. It is. So basically, from the gate, Marty's making weird statements. He's giving himself away. And you know how this always goes. You guys know if you follow true crime how this goes. They insert themselves in the investigation. They try to step ahead of these. I was just thinking about, I'm going to be careful what I say, but the similarities to a case that's open right now in Southern California, trying to explain things in advance of what they're going to find. So, for instance, Marty saying, I mean, it reminds me of, that other case near there where they're trying to explain, oh, well, if you find this, this is why. And Marty did a lot of that. Oh, well, my hammer was missing and it was stolen.
Yeah.
So it's so weird that there's a hammer used in the murders. Mine coincidentally was taken that matched the exact color kind of hammer. Weird. So clearly the killer must have stolen it from Marty and set him up. Right. Whatever.
Exactly.
Sure. But he was giving away a lot of weird statements like that only you would think someone involved in the murders would know.
Mm-hmm.
And he was just throwing it out there. It's strange too, because I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, that's it. That's the one. Yep.
Yes.
There it is.
There it is. That's a picture I was hoping she put up too.
Mm-hmm. And two, I mean, to openly say, I think Marilyn was one of his biggest. I still swear that she knows more than she's even told, and she's told quite a bit.
Yes.
She's told quite a bit. But the fact that they went down, they left cabin 26, and they went to cabin 28. Marilyn and Bo and Marty. And they stopped by to see if Sue would go with them. I think Bo kind of had a crush on Sue. Maybe was thinking she might come hang out with him. And she said no. She was like, I've got the kids. I'm not going to the back door, whatever. So they go to the bar, they hang out, and then they take Marilyn back home and then go out again. And the next thing we really know from them is that they're burning something. Marilyn wakes up
at 2:30, right?
Burning something.
I think it was 2:30 a.m. that night.
2:30, yep.
Yeah. So you've got a lot of circumstantial stuff that looks really suspicious, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we're getting to that, Missy. You're just ahead of me. Scottish Queen and Missy are cracking me up. They're like, they know the case so well. They're like,
yes.
Don't forget this. Don't forget this. So
thanks, guys.
Exactly. Thank you, though. I did forget. I got so wrapped up in details I forgot about Tina, which we will get back to. They've got us if we forget anything, apparently.
That's right. We are our people.
Exactly.
It's our team.
Marty has making all these weird statements. And then this is where it gets really strange, and we'll get into kind of like what's going on right now, because this case is open and active today because of like the world situation, what's going on right now. There's been kind of a delay, but for the past, year or so, but they definitely have reopened it. It is open and active. It is no longer a cold case. And a lot of, no, you're good, Missy. And a lot of people are really thinking that we could get answers to this. And not only do a lot of people think there were more than them involved, there's probably some accessories here that are still alive and well. And it'll be interesting to see what happens. But so, okay. Sorry, my ADD is taking over. I'm a little bit off. So we have Marty's claims.
No, you're on it.
And then I'm like, hey, trauma and true crime. So then we I know, isn't that awful looking? Those look just even spookier with all the
It's
rust
so, I know.
and the stuff on them.
There's something about a hammer. I don't know. Just when someone uses a hammer, I'm just like, that is so
No,
gruesome. That is.
I know. I was thinking about that today.
And Justin said in his hypnosis, and it's bothered me. He said he remembered Dana trying to run towards the back door and somebody behind him with a hammer. And I don't know, for
Yes,
some reason that's like haunted me a little bit. I'm like, oh,
I
I bet he
know.
was so scared because, he's like 15 years old.
I know. That really bothers me how terrified the kids must have been in this case. And if you follow true crime, you're kind of weird. No offense, because I'm one of you.
Guilty.
Seriously, I have weird thoughts that I would not, I'm like, should I say that? But
Probably not.
I can tell Beth or Teresa or somebody on the team, and they're like, oh,
You
yeah, I
would
can
hear
tell
something
you,
awful.
my weird people. But I sat there today and I'm like, God, of all the ways that I would choose, if I could have like a list of the ways I would want to die, you got fire, that's definitely on my no list. But hammer sounds
Oof.
so horrible. And I don't know, I guess it just adds that layer of horror to this
It
whole,
does.
because they didn't do it quick.
That's not going to just kill you. I guess it could, but this was a struggle. I mean, like they had blood on the bottoms of their feet, which means that people were bleeding when they were moving around.
Yes.
So, however that happened, I don't know. I feel like it was probably just like horrific. That's why I can't.
I'm thinking too.
That's why I have a hard time even understanding that Ricky and Greg didn't wake up.
I do too, because I understand that. Okay, so I understand for just a second. I don't know what you guys think so far. Kind of like pause and take I don't know, little opinions here, but I understand that Sue was gagged, right?
Yes, she
But
was.
still, the noise of the murders and if the neighbors heard the muffled screams and they woke up,
That's right. That's right. If your neighbors can hear that, how can you hear it? This place was tiny. We're not talking about like down a hall and then 3 doors down. It's like a very small place. So I wonder if they did and they wanted to talk about it. Maybe they've had therapy. We have no idea, but that would be extremely hard not to hear that. I would imagine.
That's funny.
And for Justin, I'm just going to go ahead and say, I think Marty did it. Sorry, Marty. Well, you're dead. So
he's passed away, so I think the case there. I agree. I definitely think that he was pissed because Sue interfered in his relationship, and it seems like personal. And I think that he decided that couldn't happen, and he didn't need Sue, who seemed like to be a really strong woman, interfering in his relationship. He liked his toxic relationship. He didn't need another woman interfering and putting ideas in his wife's
right.
head. And also, if you look at it this way, I was thinking about it, Sue is an example of leaving her husband, it was hard.
Everything he probably hated. I would say probably like hates women or something. I don't know.
So maybe, maybe she was kind of like, look, I did it. You can do it. And he's not going to like that whole pushing her to be independent. And
right. And you see in abusive situations, a lot of times that's happened where the abuser has gotten mad at a friend or a family member or somebody that they felt like was trying to, come in between that situation. So
I agree, Marshall. I think Sue is definitely the target, and the rest was unfortunate timing. So from what we understand, it's possible that the boys walked in, or Johnny, being 15, went to defend his mom, which is so sad. And Dana, being boys at that age, went to defend and protect Sue and ended up getting murdered. It sounds like she was the first one to get attacked. And then unfortunately, if what we've read is correct, Tina walked in because of the noise. So then you've got that on top of it. Yes, they did fall asleep with the TV on, but I wonder how loud it was. I don't know.
And I can't figure out how the boys had no defensive wounds. That makes me crazy. That makes me want to think they had that gun pulled on them when they came in. Yeah. Maybe Dana did try to run. I don't know, but I know that Sue definitely fought back like crazy. So that would have made a ton of noise.
Yeah, I agree. She's like, are you talking about saying that we think Marty was involved? Yeah. Well, it's just the crime scene itself suggests that there were more than one killer.
Absolutely.
You've got a strange relation.
They
Yeah.
think now there could be up to 6. So who
Yeah.
knows?
Yep. And you've got Dana, like Beth mentioned, who was strangled when the others were bludgeoned and stabbed. That's 2 different methods. I mean, there's a lot to suggest that you've got a lot of people to contain. You also have that coincidence that Marty has an ex-convict living with him.
Yes.
And he has questionable ties, which we won't get into.
Yeah, very questionable.
Yeah, very questionable ties.
Those that will not be named.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
Look at that.
We put ourselves at risk enough just on a daily basis. So, yeah, Marshall, or who was that said? Yeah, they were taped up with medical tape and wire as well. Yeah, our Browning, we talked about this at the beginning of the live. I think that the setup in that, I know I'm not trying to get stuck on this little minute detail. I think it's weird that the one daughter, Sheila, had her own room and the mom shared with. And I wish we could get into all the reasons that could be weird, but we're trying to be careful because, like I said, a lot of these people are alive. And, I don't know. There's a lot of rumors. Rumors about different people being involved or maybe having knowledge.
Oh, Annie, I was gonna. We had kind of said there's a lot of information that the sheriff was good friends with Marty.
Yeah. Well, and then you got into the counseling, right?
Well, and yeah. So apparently, according to Marilyn, Marty's wife, the sheriff was giving them marriage counseling.
Which, okay, I get that this is a tiny town, right? I'm assuming the dating pool is horrific. To none. I'm assuming that I guess
so funny.
There might not be. I was thinking about that today. I'm like, dear Lord. I'm thinking that there might not be a therapist or a counselor in that town. So do you go to the sheriff of the town for marriage counseling? Apparently. Or could you be good friends with the sheriff and he says, hey, I'll counsel you. I'll try to help you.
That's what it is.
I find it I agree. I find it
so many people that were interviewed that I saw, the majority of people said, oh no, Marty and Sheriff Thomas had a friendship. They were friends. And it is said that at one point, Marty actually allowed Sheriff Thomas to live with him. That's not substantiated. We haven't seen records where they lived together, but that's what people said. So.
Yep. Oh, you did. Thank you. I thought so too. It's under 100 people. Can you imagine? And I have lived in 2 small towns, but they were not, when I say small towns, I'm talking in the tens of thousands. And then one was in the thousands. And that was tiny. Like you walk into a place and everyone knows your name.
Right.
And and it was hard for me to break in to get a friend group. I cannot imagine what living in a town of under 100 people was like. I mean, everyone's related.
That's why this case is such a circus, because there's so many different, so-and-so doesn't like so-and-so, so they're going to throw them under the bus, and then they like them, so they're going to say, oh, no, they wouldn't. It's just a wreck.
Scottish Queen, I'm going to guess that that's what happened. And a lot of times when you have that kind of, and I'm just speaking off my opinion, I think that a lot of times when you have that kind of rage towards women, that's one of the ways it's displayed. And I think that's why, that's just my opinion. There's no proof of that. You know what I'm saying, Beth? I mean, I feel like that was one of the ways that the hate was expressed. And then she was assaulted, and then maybe the boys walked in, and maybe that's even why they had blood on their shoes, on the bottom of their shoes. And
great point.
And then they were subdued.
Great point.
And maybe their mom was still alive, and they had something like, they had leverage on them because they had the mom right there.
Right.
So they got them tied up, and that's why they didn't have any defensive wounds, because they were tied up and could not defend themselves.
I guarantee it. That's so right.
Yep. Exactly, researcher. That's what I'm saying. The family tree of that town is a straight line. Okay.
That's right.
It's a straight line.
That's right.
I'm telling you, I've lived in a town where you walk in and it's like everyone gets quiet and looks at you, and they're like, and it's so much bigger than this town. I really cannot imagine living in
I live there now.
Yeah, that's great, Beth. I'm talking to Beth, who lives in a tiny town. Yes, it's big. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, Jax. I lived in a town around your size, and I thought that was tiny. Like everyone knows your name in like different counties and stuff because they're small. And this is I ain't got nothing on this town. It's crazy. So yeah, that's why you get into towns as small and allegedly in our opinion,
Allegedly, in our opinion.
allegedly in our opinion, it's very hard to have an objective, non-corrupted investigation
It
because you've got
is.
relationships all over the place. So, oh, that would be fun. I always wanted to go to one of those, Marshall.
What is it?
That's what I'm thinking, Amby. I think that they
Yeah,
probably
test.
walked in, yes, on the mom, and they probably said, and they had the BB gun, which unfortunately I probably thought was real.
Was it real good? That's what I thought
That's
too.
so sad. And they subdued them, and that's why they didn't have the defensive wounds. It is like The Hills Have eyes, and that's actually based on a true case. We'll get into that later.
That's based on a Scottish clan. I would love
Mhm.
to talk to you guys about that one.
We are gonna do that one, by the way. Yeah, mine was on the East Coast too, Missy, so I know how that goes. It was like, and I was from the Midwest going to this tiny town on the East Coast, and it was funny. All right, so where the heck were we? I guess present. Well,
We're talking about they've started to question Marty.
Here was another weird thing that makes no sense. Okay, so I know she's still alive, so I'm going to be careful with my words. But I will say this. Marilyn Smart, interesting character, seems to have a very selective memory of some very important facts, right? For instance, she claims that she found a bloody jacket in her basement that she believed belonged to Tina.
Yep.
And she says that she gave it to police. From what I could find, there's absolutely
Nothing.
no record of this jacket
No,
ever
there's not.
given to the cops. So I don't know if she made that up or
did they not log it in? Was that more evidence because it was found in Marty's basement with blood on it? I don't know. I don't know if she's saying stuff just to.
That's how.
I have no idea.
Diane, I totally agree, and I think that's why she was not well liked. I think that this is back in. You got to consider the
Me
time.
too.
The time you're in 1981, right? 40 freaking years ago. And a lot of us were like zygotes or not even on the planet yet. And you've got different ideas about things. And she comes in, this independent woman on, welfare and child support, and she's gets a federal grant to get an education to open her own business. Fiercely independent, tough lady. And I just don't think it was accepted well. I agree. I don't think it was received well.
We will, Scottish Queen. We're coming.
What is she saying?
She said,
yeah, we're gonna
talk
get
about what happened to Tina, but we're going to.
I picture her sitting there like, don't forget this. Like, we're gonna get there, I promise. So yeah, I don't know if the sheriff was married or not, Annie. That's a good question.
I think he was married, but I can't you can't quote me on it, but I'm 90% sure. Yes. I think.
Yeah. I'm not sure. That is something we should look up. Yeah, I'm gonna guess he was, but yeah, and I do find it interesting that he's made statements, and he's made very defensive statements, which is interesting, and we'll get to this. The new sheriff at first was very defensive of the old investigation, and then he changed his tune, which I find really telling. But Sheriff Thomas, who was the sheriff at that time, was like, oh, well, everyone on, now that there's social media, everyone's a detective, and everyone just gets on social media and they know what happened that night. Forget our investigation. They know what happened. Well, wasn't much of an investigation.
You made tons of mistakes. I'm sorry. Right. When it happens, it happens.
The investigation was crap.
It was a horrible investigation.
Right.
You didn't even secure a crime scene. Like you didn't even, things were not logged in properly that they knew should have been logged in properly. It wasn't even something like the jacket. Like, does that exist or does it not? These were things they literally knew and they still were not even logged in properly.
Yep.
So it was a problem.
I agree. Where's the fingerprint? And now with his forensics, though, I think this is going to be interesting.
Me too.
And it sucks because we've had this year of where things kind of sat stagnant, but I'm hopeful that they're going to do some tests. And I know there's already been some testing, and we'll get to that in a minute. And that's true too, Cinnamon. If you all know each other, nobody's going to talk.
That's right.
You're protecting your friends. You're protecting everybody you know. So,
and I think Marty was kind of the type of guy that people might have been a little scared of, to be honest. He seemed extremely violent. I know he drank a lot, and I don't know, they might have been scared to say something, until I think that's why a lot of this case is developing too. He died in 2000.
Mm-hmm.
And Bo died. And it just seems like after that happened, things started to slowly move to that people started to talk more. They started to,
Right.
So,
yep.
Might have been a little scared of him.
And there's another interesting fact that I wrote down that I found today. I love it. It's like always last minute when I find some stuff. No, I couldn't find a fingerprint or a photo of the fingerprint, Teresa.
No.
I agree, Amby. And we see a lot of cases like that even today where it looks like there's a small town cover up going on. I mean, we've seen those in recent times in the cases that we go over. So yeah. And then there is the whole, you've got to separate. Was it just because it was 1981 and, forensics were bad, or was there an intentional cover up? I think that a lot points to be. Yeah, go ahead, Beth.
Marshall, I just wanted to let you know that with the blanket that was covering Sue's body, Justin actually said that he did that during his hypnosis. He said that he covered her body.
Yeah.
So I think that, but I'm also not sure. That's a great point. Marshall said possibly if Marilyn knew about it and came to the scene after it had happened, would have covered up her body because of the heinousness of it. Right. That's a great point. I've just always thought possibly because Justin thought about that in hypnosis, that he is the one that covered her body. But who knows? That's a great point.
Yeah, that is. Everyone has such good. I agree.
I know.
I love reading people's theories.
And you're like, I wish we could just take 5 hours. And
I know. So then you've got so I was going to get to this one point I found. So there's a special investigator, and he's important because he's one of the 2 people that just reopened this case in 2013. Special investigator Mike Gamberg. And he actually knew the Sharp family at the time of the murders. He got into a fight with Sheriff Thomas 2 weeks before the murders happened. And he was quote unquote dismissed. I don't know what that means, whether he was freaking fired or dismissed. I don't know. It was I'm not 100% sure what that means, but he was dismissed. He came back later, but this is what he thinks is interesting. And you have to read between the lines with what the new investigators are saying. I think it's pretty obvious, but the special agent said basically that, or special investigator said that when he came back, he was told he could not touch the case. He could not touch the case. He could not look at the case. He could not have anything to do with the case. He was kept over here. And I find that, and he was never given an explanation on why. And you would think the extra set of hands that knew the family that they would want that. And they intentionally iced him out. And he did know the family. And I find that interesting. And he brings that up now.
Yes.
Because he was pissed about it. And he wanted to investigate it. And until that sheriff got out of there, he couldn't. And then once that sheriff was out, it was his opportunity. And luckily with the new sheriff, who sounds like he actually cares, he brought him back in to be able to research it.
And he said in 2018, he said, we will not stop until every single person is brought to justice. So he's serious about it.
Wait a minute. Are you saying that you pulled up in the Keddie resort and the sheriff showed up and told you to show your driver's license and leave? That's interesting.
Oh, wow.
Annie, I don't know. I mean, obviously the sheriff is still alive and he's almost 80 at this point. Actually, I think he is 80 or 81 at this point. So this is all our speculation. Yeah, the FBI did come in right away because Tina was missing. And they looked at Tina, and thank you for reminding me. We'll get into Tina. So like I said, everyone just figured that no one would ever hear of Tina again. So this is another really interesting point that kind of comes into recent, it kind of crosses over, because there were a lot of things that were found back then that were just buried at the bottom of the file, covered up, never looked at. And that's why everyone thinks there's a cover up, or a lot of people think there's a cover up. Because why were these things not looked at? One of them is that almost 3 years to the date of the murders, I can't remember, was it April 22nd of 84?
Yep.
I think.
84, yep.
So almost exactly 3 years from the murders. They got it, and Beth might know better than me, but there's some conflicting statements here. Some people say that someone randomly came across bones over 60 miles away in Butte County. Some people say the call came first, the anonymous call, and some people say no, someone found it and then a call came in.
Yep.
There's, again, more varying information. On different sites I went to, it said different things. But someone called in, a skull was found and things were found, and they called in and said, it's Tina's. And it was over 60 miles away. Only
it was, that's like, it's like, no,
Yeah.
I have a feeling somebody did that intentionally that maybe knew and hadn't said anything. Not necessarily the killer, but maybe somebody that was feeling guilty, or that her body was there and they had no closure on it or something. And
That's what I think. That's what I think. And it's weird that, okay, because come on. So, and then there's more to this call. But so think about it. So Tina's skull is found over 60 miles away. Someone calls and says, oh, that's Tina Sharp. It is Tina Sharp. And on top of that, they found a child's blanket, I believe.
A pair of jeans
with the pocket cut out. And there was one more thing. Oh, a nylon jacket. So that actually makes me wonder if the jacket Marilyn talked about in the basement was actually a thing, or if she was trying to tip them off.
I don't know.
Marty. I wondered that today.
Marilyn. We need to talk to you, Marilyn.
Marilyn, call us, all right?
Call us, Marilyn.
Have some questions.
We'd love to talk
to you. Yes. Beth, can you get a hold of Marilyn? I think you could. I think you should.
Watch me.
I'm dead serious. If anyone can get a hold of Marilyn, will you have her call us? We've got some questions. I have a feeling Marilyn's, regardless of her age, is in the hot seat right now, because there's some weird stuff there.
Yeah, I'd say she's probably,
yeah.
Well, especially considering with Justin, which we can get in that too, that he might be going to write a book. So.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So then you've got, okay, so sorry, I'm trying not to miss anything. He did stall initially, and that's why a lot of people believe that there was a cover up before the feds came in. But the feds did come in to help look for Tina, and they did use dogs, they did use helicopters, all that. Marshall, I agree. I think the anonymous call was a big red flag.
Me too.
I just know they did testing, and they did say it was Tina's, right? The dental records.
Oh yeah, they did. They did testing. But they couldn't determine any cause of death. There's no, they couldn't, it was literally just bones.
Wasn't it just her skull? I think it was just her skull, and then those things I mentioned above, which is.
I think it was her skull, and then maybe like one more bone. I think it was like
I think you're right.
Like one bone. It wasn't even like, no, they were only able to tell through dental records that it was her.
Sherry, that's an excellent question, actually.
It is. I saw that. Good question, Sherry.
Really good question. And I wish I had the answer to it. I don't. Does anyone else?
I don't either.
That is such a good question. Did they have, I don't know if any of them had connections to Butte County, or if they just drove and
over
found
there or what?
Okay, so the letter. We'll get into this. So, okay. So here we are in 1981. We've got Tina found in 1984 with the call that is buried, and let me just say, never listened to. So that call was never listened to by investigators. Come on. Exactly. Oh, about Marilyn, Scottish Queen? Yeah. So, I mean, I feel like all fingers point to Marilyn. So then you get to so in 2001, Dana Wingate's parents, who I feel horrible for, can you imagine letting your kid go to spend the night out at a friend's house? This is
No.
like the ultimate nightmare as a parent.
No.
One night and your kid spends the night out, and that's the night that these brutal murders happen. That is just my worst nightmare, basically. It's again what I talked about before, the sliding doors thing with me.
Right.
And I feel so bad for them because there's been so much, and their son was just kind of thrown into the mix, and there was a bunch of rumors put out about their son. And he's a freaking kid, you guys. He's 17 years old.
Yes.
I mean, come on. But they came out in 2001 and they said they were very upset and that they felt like that the investigation was botched and that it was a cover-up. They had the balls to come out and they basically said, we think this was a cover-up. We think that it was a crappy investigation, and whatever. So I just feel really bad for them in general.
Me too.
But in 2013, this is where I think it gets interesting. One of Johnny, who was 15 at the time, and Dana's classmates became sheriff. And he went to school with them, was friends with them, and it really affected him as a teenager. And he vowed kind of that when he became sheriff, he would solve this for everyone. And Sheriff Hagwood, I believe, is now the sheriff since 2013, and he reopened the case. And he has a personal stake in all of it. And I think that this is the biggest hope that town has for justice, because he's the one who brought back on the special investigator, Mike Gamble, that I told you about. He brought him back on, like, all right, it's time to reopen this and actually do a deep investigation, which I love.
Me too.
I swear to God, I think we're going to get some answers to this. I'm trying to make sure I missed something Sherry said. No, I didn't. So now I also forgot to mention, and I want to mention this very shortly. Hey, Patricia, after the murders, that sheriff left being sheriff, which I find interesting too. He was not in there very long after he left.
Nope.
I know, Maui girl. Isn't that not your worst nightmare? And when you're in true crime watching stuff like this, I'm like, all right, that's it. My daughter's never spending the night out.
I know. Like,
everyone will come here.
It's not happening. Lock you in your room.
Right. Everyone can spend the night here for the rest of your life. No. So Teresa, thank you. The cabins were torn down. Beth, do you know what year? I think it was 2004, 2006.
I was thinking 2008. I don't know why, but that's messed up in it. 2004 is when it was.
Okay. Right. They were torn down because there was so much traffic.
2004. Yep.
It's ironic because that town wanted to rebuild as this resort town, right? They are never, ever, ever, ever going to not be linked to these murders.
To the Keddie. Never.
I mean, if you Googled, like today, I Googled Keddie, California population, put anything about, and it's boom, murders. And it's got a picture of the space where the cabin used to be. Keddie is always going to be married to these murders, period, the end. They never recovered after these murders happened. And that's just the way it's always going to be. So you used to be able to go visit the cabin. There was a ton of traffic through there, and they did tear it down. And now it's just like a hole in the woods.
Yeah. If you go on YouTube, you can catch some people that have went before they tore it down. You can find some people filming around it and things like that, so.
Teresa, I love you. Oh
What's she saying?
You're so freaking funny. I freaking love Teresa. Anyways, so okay. Yeah, no, Marissa, it was torn down. I'm sorry. She makes me laugh. So anyway, the case is reopened in 2013, which any true crime geek should be really excited about, because I really do think that this is going to be solved. And I'm optimistic about it because they're already sending things off to be tested and looked at that were never looked at.
Yep.
And they basically, this was a big step for them. When they first got in there, like I said before, they were very defensive about the case. Oh, everyone's an armchair detective, although you guys know how awesome we are. But everyone's an armchair detective. Oh, we really are. And then they kind of retracted
Y'all
it and
need
said,
to
you know what? Right? Again, Marilyn Callis. And then you were kind of like, actually, they came back and they circled back and they were like, this was handled really poorly. Thank you, Soapy Chirp. This was handled really poorly. And they acknowledge that. And I think that's a big step in the right direction. In fact, they didn't just say that it was poorly handled, they called it an absolute mess. And so
Yes.
that if it had been handled correctly in the beginning, they should have known. I thought this was a powerful statement. They should have known within 2 to 3 weeks who did it.
Yes. Yep.
So think about that.
Well, and especially considering, I mean, he's dead now. If the first one that's admitted it twice, anyway. Ugh.
Yes, and I'm sorry. Teresa's like,
Ugh.
hint, look at the letter. So is Sherry.
What
Okay,
is it?
the letter.
Oh,
So a couple things have happened since 2013 that are super suspicious. All right. First of all, you've got the anonymous call saying that Tina was found that was buried at the bottom of a box and never listened to. What the F? All right. Voice analysis, anything to do with that
nothing.
call. Nothing. Okay. Basically, and here's a little bit of an idea too. It took them 10 days after they reopened this case to find most of this evidence. 10
That's
days.
right.
Okay. I agree, Annie. We're basically, I don't want to give us too much credit, but really, we are. I know, Marissa. It was
girl.
Newfie girl. It was absolutely horrific. And we see, though, even today, we see a lot of cases like this all over the place. And it's frustrating as hell. I'm sure it's so frustrating for the families.
And in small towns, I'll just be honest, it does seem like small town politics, small town departments and things. That seems to get a lot of, you see some of that. And in big cities too. It's really everywhere.
So after this is so there's a couple of things we have to mention that happened after the case reopened. So, and this is Sherry and Teresa are both trying to remind me, as you see the picture that Teresa has up. So after it was reopened, basically, and this is where her selective memory comes in. There was a letter found in the file that Marty had wrote to Marilyn shortly after the murders. And it said, I've paid the price of your love. And now that I've bought it with 4 people's lives, you tell me we are through. Great. What else do you want? I don't know if there's a more damning, letter, but nothing was done with that. So,
and the wording, I paid the price for your love. Did she tell them? I don't know. That makes like Marilyn girl. What were you talking about? Like,
exactly.
I don't know. Like, did you? It's confusing.
Yeah. I agree, Beth. I've had the same thought. I'm like, so did she tell him to go do it?
I know. That's what I'm like.
In my opinion, they'll come for us.
I mean, it just sounds like I did this for you. That's what it sounds like. I did this for you, which there's also rumor that Marty was having an affair with Sue. I don't know, but a lot of people in Keddie were like, oh no, Marty and Sue, they were hooking up too. So I don't know. And then a lot of people were like, Sue would never have anything to do with him. So it's so hard to know. But like, I don't know. That letter is so weird. And it just sounds like to me, it's some kind of like, proclamation of that I did this for you. And now you're not even going to, I don't know. I guess you could take it however way, but the paid the price for your love, that just.
Right. No, Maui girl, we haven't mentioned that yet, but when we get there, if you want to pop in with that. So I do have, and we'll get to that, Diane, because there is stuff you can do. And we do, if you guys look at the description of this video, I do have, because this case drives me crazy, I have phone numbers down there. I have websites to go see. There's an actual active reward, $5,000 for any information on these murders. And I really do believe that there are people alive today that know what happened that night and that know, and maybe after some of these people have passed away and enough time has passed, maybe they feel safer now to come out and talk about it.
Right.
But I have all of that information in the description. I wanted to make sure that was there before we started the live because, if there is anyone that ends up watching this, especially, not only do I like anniversaries, but it seems to be like the killers and people associated with crimes do like
That's correct.
anniversaries. Yeah. And it's a weird thing, but they do a lot of times like anniversaries. And who knows, maybe somebody will watch this that knows something or has information, and you never know. Sharian, I don't know. I bet you could ask Scottish Queen and she would know.
Yeah.
Or Miss Elizabeth. I agree, Marissa. Back then, the DNA testing, and even now,
Oh,
no,
yeah.
you're good. So basically, you've got this letter, which is huge, okay, and then you've got Marilyn who says, "This is when I said the selective memory stuff." You got Marilyn who says she doesn't remember getting that letter. Really, you don't
Yeah.
remember getting that letter after the quadruple murder next door to you? Okay, well, regardless, she did say that that is absolutely his handwriting. So
Yep.
she says it's his handwriting. She's remarried since then, by the way. After the murders, they split. She got remarried. She did say that that was his handwriting, but she just doesn't remember getting it.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like that's something you would remember. But that's just me. Maybe she doesn't.
Yeah, you would definitely remember that, guys.
Right? Even with my crap memory
Yeah,
of
I think
ADD,
anybody would remember
I
that.
would remember that. So, yes, there's tape that was found. So you've got this. You've got a
There
call
was
that was.
also, and I was going to tell you guys when they found Tina, there was a thing of tape that
Mhm.
they found near her too, and that is what we could not remember, Vanessa. I knew I
Yeah,
was looking at you, were looking back. There's something. There's
and
something.
there was
There
one
was
other
tape,
thing.
and that's strange because there was medical tape that was used at the crime
Yeah.
scene. It was obviously brought there. So that kind of made me think that those items went with hers, because they weren't exactly able to determine that they were for positive her items. But being found right there with the body, you would imagine that.
Yep.
But I mean, I don't know. All the bodies had been moved. It's just such a crazy, I don't know. But if I got a letter like that, then I can guarantee that it would probably be like something's wrong.
Right? I paid the price of your love with 4 lives. Come the F on.
That's right.
Come on.
Come on now.
Yeah, and then you've got the medical tape, you've got the I really do. I don't know why I feel this is just my opinion. Because they found the nylon jacket near there, I really do think that Marilyn was trying to tip them off without tipping them off about that
Yep.
jacket in the basement.
So do I.
Hoping
I
they
think
would
that
come.
jacket that was in the basement's the same jacket that they found near her body.
Yeah. Yep, that's exactly what I think. Hating
Yeah, I
tape.
think Marilyn was trying, but also we have to take into account Marilyn was in an abusive relationship.
Yes.
She was probably fearful herself. She had 2 children, of which he was already, I mean, he's already tried to run over her and one of them
Mhm.
and stuff. So, I mean, I think she
Yeah,
probably, I have no idea, was in a tough spot too. This is a hard case. It's
it
hard.
is. It's interesting. I mean, I feel pretty confident that there was, some kind of cover up for friends done here. I feel
Me too.
like the new sheriff says, I think that this could have been solved. I think there were
Me too.
reasons that it wasn't solved. And then also in 2016, so this is where it gets interesting. There was another tip on the website. So if you guys, I have this in the description, but go to Keddie 28. I believe it's Keddie28.com, isn't it?
Mhm.
That is a great site. That's where you can get all the information on the case. You can get all the current stuff. And it actually has a teaser that says solved. Basically, the new sheriff has, alluded to the fact that they do have some DNA evidence that they have matched to someone who's alive currently. And they
That's right.
believe there are 6 people involved,
Yes.
including accessories, those types of things.
Yeah, and when you go there, they also don't be shocked. They believe, and we won't even go into this is a speculation of a case. There's nothing they believe that somehow Sheila could have possibly been involved with it. That will be something that you will read about. I personally do not think that. I could
Me neither.
watch me be totally wrong. But there's a lot to do. It's honestly it would take us hours, guys, but there's a light bulb that was unscrewed and the only the printer was Sheila's. So there's just a lot
Yeah.
of stories in and around there. And so you're going to read some things about Sheila. All I can tell you, my personal opinion is I don't think that. But you will read some things about her, even when you go to this website that we, so
Yeah.
just understand there's a lot of theories about involvement.
Yeah. I agree with Beth that I don't believe that Sheila had any involvement, but that, I mean, again, we could be totally wrong. Criminal Imagination, just so you know, I tried to load that site multiple times today and it kept rerouting me saying that I couldn't get there. And it was weird. Like 2 hours later, it finally took me to the website. So I don't know if there's an issue with that or what, but I actually
The
also,
same thing happened to me.
oh, it
How
did.
weird is this?
That is weird.
We're just no, I'm serious. I had the same issue with that website.
Yeah, it would not load. You sent it to me, Beth, on my phone, and I kept clicking
Yes.
on it, and it would not. I was like, okay, how the hell does Beth see this? I'm like, I cannot get to this. So there's obviously some kind of issue.
That's
I
what it
did
did to me.
eventually get to it, but it was weird. It
Yeah.
took me like 10 tries. And
And we also have the links to all the forums too, which is kind
yes,
of linked to that.
yeah.
That would be great.
And then in 2016, they got a tip, which I find interesting because keep in mind, Marty's dead. What year did he die? He died in Oregon. I can't remember what year
He
he
died
died.
in Oregon of cancer in 2000.
Yes, in 2000. Okay. So 16 years after Marty's dead, they get an anonymous tip, and Bo is dead too at this time, correct?
He is.
Okay. So someone else called and put a tip in. So there you go. And said that they led them to the hammer that matches the exact description that Marty said was stolen. I believe it's a blue handle,
Yep.
very specific color. And what do you know? They find the hammer that they believe, and the current sheriff said he does believe that was the hammer used in the murders. Blue handle. It's the same one that Marty tried to jump out there and say that, oh, my hammer was stolen, the blue handle, and they found it. And so someone knew exactly where to look for it. So yeah. And they openly said what I read today, that they do believe that that was used to kill them.
Right.
One of them. So that happened in 2016. And then, of course, you've got the letter and Marilyn's sketchy memory. I don't know if she was the one. It doesn't even say, I don't know, Beth, if you saw, if it was a female or a male that called in that tip. It just says an anonymous tip.
It just says anonymous.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point, Sherry Ann. Kind of like the Golden Gate Killer. Beth and I were laughing about that meme last night. That's like my favorite.
It's like my cousin got a coupon for Ancestry DNA shoot.
When your third cousin gets a coupon for 20%.
You're like, dang
You've gotten away with murder for 80 years. Yeah.
No.
Basically, that is a good point. But I know, Criminal Imagination, it's so awful.
It is.
And yeah, Marissa, the movie is actually The Strangers, which I can handle almost anything because I'm morbid and weird. But The Strangers is one of those. There's like 2 movies, I think, in my life. No, 3 that I can think of off the top of my head that made me get a fever. This is weird. If I get really, really stressed out, I get an actual fever. It's so weird.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm so connected, like mind and body. I will spike a fever if I get too upset about something. And there are like 3 movies in my life where I've gotten a fever over them. It sounds so crazy, but it's true. One of them was The Strangers, which is what that movie was based off of this case. One was Eden Lake. If you guys have ever seen Eden Lake.
I've never seen that.
Oh my God. It is so horrible. I watched it by myself. I was like, I got a fever from it. I'm not kidding. I did
How
not feel.
have I not seen this?
Eden Lake, and it's based off, I believe, a true story. And I cannot handle that movie. If any of you seen that movie, back me up. It's horrific. You will not feel right for weeks after watching it.
I haven't seen it. Paranormal Activity did that to me. I was like, oh, I cannot.
That's scary. I can deal with scary. There's just those movies that I don't know why, like, get in your soul. Strangers is one, Eden Lake, and then Hostel.
8mm did that to me. 8mm got down in my soul. Ugh.
This is one I turned off. Hostel was one of those for me.
Ugh,
I don't know.
I
Maybe it's the
can't do
mood I was
torture
in.
movies.
Eden Lake, guys, look it up tonight.
I'm going to look that up.
You will not. And if you can handle it better than me, message me because you're a tougher human than I am. I seriously had PTSD from that
I'd like
movie
to hear from you.
for like weeks. I was not
Ew.
right. You watch like happy crap and kind of, I don't know.
Oh, I gotta see this. How have I
It's
not
so
seen
bad.
this?
It's about, well, it's just basically, you'll just have to see. It's kind of like The Strangers. Yeah, Marissa, it grossed me out too. The Ring and the Grudge. The Ring and the Grudge were scary. Like I sweated during those movies, but I didn't have like actual
I love The
PTSD.
Ring.
The Ring is so good. I look like The Ring when I wake up. But seriously,
Sinister was good too.
Eden Lake. Oh, Sinister is scary. Eden Lake is
I gotta see this.
horrifying, you guys. But so is The Strangers. Thank you, Jason. You know, right? You can never, yeah, why would you ever watch that movie more than once?
Okay, so I'm gonna need you to call me when we get done with
I
this
will.
live so you can tell me about this movie.
I just want to say right now, if any of you watch it and are permanently messed up in the head, don't get mad at me. I'm telling you not to watch it. Okay?
I'm warning you.
Don't watch it. Just take my word for it. It's horrific. Generally, Backcountry got me too. I forgot about that one. Don't watch Backcountry either.
Okay, I've not seen this one. I need to hear this.
The bear. There is a scene in there that I think they actually got an actor to get killed by a bear for the scene. It's
They
so
did what?
realistic and so horrible. Okay, now everyone's bringing up the worst. Yeah.
Is Backcountry the one about the grizzlies?
Yes. Well,
I need to see this.
That bratty little girl goes hiking with her idiot. I'm gonna be
love movies where animals just slaughter everybody. I do. Like all the shark movies and everything. I'm like, just get them animals. And Shark Lake. It's just great. I could go on and on.
Oh my God. Yeah, we'll have to tell them about that later. But no, the Backcountry, you guys, I'm so glad you brought that up. Yeah, thank you, Marissa. Eden Lake will ruin your life. Highlight that. Remember that. Do not watch this, you guys. Don't watch it. And don't message me that your life has changed. So horrible. I wish I never watched it ever. Maybe I'll make it better for you because I made it such a horrible deal. But no, seriously, I've never watched The Human Centipede. I've only heard about it. I can't add more dark stuff that's already in here. This is a scary place already. I can't watch that one. I've heard too many bad things. But Backcountry, Beth,
I
is
cannot
like,
watch Human Centipede. No.
Nope. I've heard about it. Can't do it.
No, I can't.
Nope. And see, Miscellaneous. No, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to take her word for it.
No.
KTK. I'm not kidding. And I'm not a wuss. Like I enjoy to, I'm a masochist. Okay. So I enjoy disturbing myself. I enjoy putting myself in in a very uncomfortable position. I'm weird like that. Like I don't mind it.
I'm a sadist.
You're a sadist?
I'm a masochist. No, I'm a masochist too.
I really am.
I do the same thing to myself. I'll watch yeah.
I'm like that in all areas of my life. Like, oh, it's horrible for me. Let's do it. Let's sign up first. So yes, this is why we're friends.
That's me.
This movie is like next level masochism. I cannot explain it. Yeah, Exorcist is horrible. Descent is good.
No.
I liked
Descent. Okay. Descent is my favorite scary movie. That was actually, if you look at their tags, it says North Carolina. That's supposed to be like where I live, is where that was supposed to take place. I love that. And 28 Days Later, because the UK can make some films.
I just watched that yesterday.
It's so funny. Good.
28 Days Later, I just watched it yesterday. It's so funny. There's enough dark stuff up here, like you're saying. I agree, Jax. I've got so many dark things up here, and it's like, oh, let's add to it. So let's put some more stuff in there that you can't get rid of at night when you can't sleep till 6 a.m. So you have perma bags on my eyes like I do. That's for me filling my head with dark, horrible things. But you guys, I'm telling you, Strangers, Eden Lake, Hostel really affected me forever. But in Backcountry is a good one. If you haven't seen that, oh my God.
I'm watching that. You're calling me when we get done. I'm watching
It's so bad. And then the guy in the movie is such a freaking idiot that you just want him to get, well, I'm not going to give it away. You're almost like, yeah, that's what you get. In Deliverance. Thank you, Marshall, and
Yeah,
whoever else brought that up. That's
Deliverance.
one that you can't get out. So, yeah, but
They did,
this,
Annie.
yes,
Ken and
got a little
Barbie.
off topic, but
Once
I'm
you
telling
study
you.
Ken and Barbie, you're pretty much.
Oh, yeah, our Ken and Barbie life. That the Ken and Barbie book, and I know Susie asked earlier if there's any books on the Keddie Cabin murders. I really honestly could not find any that were that great. I would almost just go to the Keddie if you can load it. I don't know what the hell that's about. If you can get to the Keddie 28 website, that's where you should go. And
Yes,
then
and also the forum site, Susie. The forum
yes,
site is
yes,
really good because that is all those people that have been in this case for like years and years and years. And sometimes I don't know what they're talking about when they're like, Rick was in here, but then he left because I thought
yeah.
he was friends with, found out he was friends with
Yeah,
Sheriff
you
Thomas,
tell-
third cousin removed, but now he's back. Anyway, so it is all the detail down dirty gossip on the forums. It's neat. I'm
I'm gonna
enjoying
mess
it.
everyone up tonight. I'm gonna mess everyone's head up tonight. Yeah, I'm not great. I'm trying my best to give you all PTSD. Marissa, then don't watch the YouTube video of the guy proposing to his girlfriend underwater. That was another YouTube video that messed me up for about a month. I mean, for so many reasons, but don't watch that. Look at me. Don't watch that. They'll go
No,
right. Watch it.
don't do it.
I'll have to look up the movie. I haven't heard of Green Inferno, but
Oh, I
there are
haven't either.
really good blogs on this. So what do you guys think? What do you guys think about
Oh yeah, and when I wanted to mention to him about the therapist, I forgot to tell about how he went to see
yes,
the
yes, yes, yes. This
therapist.
is a big one, you guys. Sorry, we're ADD minute, but
No, we're
important.
right on it. Actually, we're pretty good.
Yeah, you were good. This is like probably the most on task we've ever been.
Hope you guys love it.
Only a little sprinkle of ADD there. You're so funny. Yes, we have to bring that up because that's actually really important. Before.
Yeah, he actually soon after the murders, he moved to Reno, which is where he lived for a while. We're talking about Marty. And
Yes.
Marty went to see a therapist and basically told her that he had killed Sue and that he had killed Tina, that he didn't kill John or Dana, but that he killed Sue and he killed Tina because she saw him kill Sue.
Yes.
And that's what he told her. And she immediately left Reno, drives to Keddie,
Yep.
tells them all about it. And then what was the date, Vanessa?
Oh Lord, I think that's the one thing I don't have. She
She
drove.
came back. It was in 2000. When was it?
Mm,
This 2013 when they reopened that they
yes, when
found.
they found this,
That's right.
but no one had ever said anything about it
That's
until
right.
they found it, and they
Yep.
went to the therapist saying what happened. And go ahead.
And she said, this happened and I came and told you. He told me that he did it. And then no one did anything. So,
No. So here they
and
have
then
it.
he died. And then he moved to Oregon and he died in 2000 of cancer.
Yeah,
So,
he was. Yeah, of course, kind of like Richard Ramirez dies of cancer.
exactly.
But it's crazy. So they reopen it and they're like, wait, what therapist? She drove in and said, hey, he admitted to this. He confessed to the two women.
Yep.
They go, oh, thanks. Thanks for coming. Now, imagine if you go somewhere like a small town and you walk in and you give this information and they kind of look at you like, ooh, and then you're going to take off and never come back.
I mean,
That's
could
what I
you
would do.
imagine if you were like, so I know somebody committed a murder and they're like, thanks for the info. Have a safe drive back.
Yeah.
Like,
Have a
okay.
good trip back to Reno. And you're like, all right, I'll never be coming back to this town.
No.
That's basically how I think she felt. And she was like, okay. So they went to visit her. I think she's still in Nevada, Sherry. And they went in and they were shocked that no one had said anything about this. But yeah, I think
That's
the
right.
motive was revenge, in my
I do
opinion.
too.
Because in my opinion,
And rage.
yeah, because the mom was talking to another woman 2 doors down about her abusive relationship and possibly leaving her husband.
Yeah.
And I
And
think, yeah.
that's what I think too. And I think that the boys just came home. I think they were going to go kill Sue and make it look like somebody had come in and killed her or, any of that thing. But I think when the boys came home, it changed everything. And then Tina woke up, and,
Yeah.
because so many times people have said Marty knew his own stepson was there,
Yeah.
like, why would
And he
he?
was in charge.
But I think he thought it was just going to be them and Tina. They had the gun. They probably said, "Don't open your mouth," So who knows?
Yeah.
That's just my
Mimi, I
opinion.
warned you. Mimi's a masochist too. When you watch the Evil Trailer, I'm telling you, Mimi, don't do it to yourself. You are going to be like mad at me, and I can't. I'm sorry in advance. Ambi just said the trailer is only a tenth of how horrible. You can't get from the trailer what this movie is. Don't watch it. I'm telling you,
Don't do it.
don't do it. Maybe it was just like the place I was in, but it was horrific. I do think that that's why Marshall, I think that, maybe Tina did wake up. I mean, think about it. She slept in Sue's room. Maybe she woke up and wondered where her mom was.
That's what, yeah.
And
I think Sue probably was just still up, maybe, doing her. She was in the living room. Unless, we know that she was in the living room. So yeah, she might have woke up and was like, "Where is she?" And then,
yeah, I'm telling you, don't watch it. So I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you guys think it was Marty? And then I do think the 6 people is interesting. I'm assuming they're talking about accessories because it looks like there were 2 killers. I would guess. I don't know if there's a third or not. But you got to think 40 years ago. So these people, the suspects are believed to be in their 20s or 30s. You're talking everyone's in their 70s now.
right.
So
I think it'll be a mix of people that possibly knew things that they didn't tell. It might be some people that were there. I don't have any idea. Like I said, you can look into the Meeks family and Philip Shearer. There's a lot of people that could have possibly been there. But I think there's gonna be some people get arrested. I think we're gonna get to see that. I really do. I think that DNA is something that really them.
Marshall, 6 people is rare, but maybe in a town like that where everybody's related, like we said, where the family tree goes.
It could be.
Great line. Yeah.
Like even if 2 people knew about it and never told, that's conspiracy to commit murder or conspiracy to hide murder.
Like
so
in other cases in Colorado that were
just the others that won't be named.
Yeah, we won't say them though. Where I believe there's about
they will remain nameless.
But anyways, we'll bring that up. Accessory after the fact, exactly. Yes. But there's a lot of interesting, but I do think that it's important, and I hope that they're able to wrap this up before everybody dies. And then you've got the kids, though, that are like in our age range. You've got Justin, you've got Sheila, and maybe they'll be braver to talk about it. Hey, Ansley.
Well, Justin says that he is, what I heard last, considering world of things going on in the world, things have been kind of slowed down. So, but he had said that he was going to write a book. So we shall see if he writes a book, he could come out and say, I saw it all. I didn't want to talk about it till after my stepdad was dead because he scared. Who knows? He may have had some type of trauma treatments to help him remember. But I did read that he had thought about writing a book. So
that would be interesting to all of a sudden he remembers.
It would be. I would buy it in a heartbeat.
Hey, Shayna.
Hey.
Yeah. Okay, so Scottish Queen agrees with us too. What
good.
For this live. How many of these people are
Queen on our side?
Yes. How many people are going to get off this live and watch all the movies we said not to watch?
I know.
Do not get mad at me. I'm telling you.
You know how I am. I have to know about something before I watch it. You have to call me and you have to tell me about it, and then I'll watch it. And I want to know what happens at the end.
I'll tell you.
People.
Because I love you guys. I really don't want you to put yourself through that. I'm telling you, it's not worth it. Sheila is now, I saw her in a documentary that we watched. We went down the Keddie 28 rabbit hole big time. And if any of you guys are Keddie neighbors watching this, I think you ought to check your judgment a little bit. I think Beth was too. I was really taken aback by the judgmental attitude. If you look at it,
I was like, oh my gosh, she's doing the best she can. Good grief, she's
got
5 kids.
5 kids in 1981, single woman. Like, good job, Sue. But
Yeah.
I mean, it was like, ugh, she was on welfare. She was on food
And
stamps.
she's left an
Okay.
abusive husband. I mean,
Wait, I
that
mean,
right
and
there, how much guts does it take to leave an abusive husband with 5 kids and nothing?
15,
So
14,
I've got
12, 10, 5. Yeah.
I respect Sue. I've got respect
Like
for her.
there was a lot of really, oh, well, she must be sleeping around. She must be. And again, there was probably like 5 eligible bachelors in the entire place. If that. I'm being generous. There was
I
probably
know.
none. Okay, if we're being realistic.
She
Maybe
was
one.
probably like, where am I?
He's probably married. Yeah. Um, so yeah, I just think it's really strange. And that is a recent documentary. There's still that attitude about her today, which
Yes.
I find crazy. But anyways, I don't know. That's just I'm off on a tangent. But I just thought it was bizarre because she was brutally murdered. She was doing the best we can.
She
So much.
can.
Hey, good job. I'm not paying for your therapy. I told you not to watch it. Good luck. You're not going to sleep tonight. Don't message me with you. You know what? Like I told you not to.
I told you so.
And there goes Mimi. I knew she was going to do it. Man Candy. Bless us all. Her husband was back in Connecticut. They have interviewed him recently. He was back in Connecticut. He was abusive, so she left him with her 5 kids. And that's not like allegedly. Like he admits he was abusive. It's documented. Right. So yeah, eligible. Yeah, I say that I'm being very generous. I mean, I cannot imagine. I'm sure there was like maybe one guy that was decent, and he was probably married.
Probably.
I agree, Scottish Queen. There was so much judgment, so much rumor. And what really pissed me off, let's not even go there. What really pissed me off was the whole, she was in with drugs. She was on drugs. She had 0 drugs on a Saturday night. She's home alone, whatever. She had 0 drugs of any kind in her system at all the night of the murders.
Right. Marty was the one that was known to be involved in drugs.
Yes.
That was like known.
Marshall, that's true. There was a train station or train track that came right through Keddie. That's pretty much all it has.
Yeah.
Keddie is like a train station and some cabins.
Oh, you're right, Sherry. She was. She really was trying. I mean,
she was
really trying.
And this is back, like, think about how long she got a federal loan. I know this is probably the 3rd time I mentioned this, but I thought it was cool when I read it. She was, with all of that she already had going on, and I read that she was extremely stressed out. Extremely stressed out. Did not know where their next meal was coming from. She was going to school. She wanted to start her own business. And back in that time, that was like unheard of. But yet, when she was brutally, horrifically slaughtered, everyone comes out to say all these derogatory things about her. Bizarre to me.
It was mind-blowing.
It really was. And I was kind of like, no offense to anyone if you watch this because I hashtag Keddie on it. Just saying. You guys ought to just kind of like, I don't know, a little bit judgy for me. Just a little bit. And some of those documentaries I watched were kind of recent.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, they were all the same father's kids. Beth, do you know any different? They were all.
No, from what I know, they were all his children.
Yeah. Yep. But I'm just saying, I'm sure it wasn't easy. I can't imagine what her days were like. But I did read that she was extremely stressed out, stretched really thin. She was like, she might not have been able to pay attention to them, like maybe a different mom in a different situation. So they kind of had a different reign of freedom. But I mean, at the same time, she had 5 school-age kids.
Right.
No money, nothing, going to school. I think her husband sent her $250 a month. I don't know what that equates to back in 1981.
Right.
But it didn't crap now. So, I agree, Sherry Ann. I think when they vilify victims, as we've seen in other cases, when you go after a victim like that, sometimes, especially when there's 0 foundation for it.
That's right.
Because you're deflecting from something else. He was in Connecticut, Teresa. He was back. He just stayed in Connecticut, and she had the full bulk of taking care of the kids, paying for everything. He sent a check every month, I read today, of $250.
Yeah.
The first person they suspected was the husband. He had an alibi. He was cleared. Hey, Alicia.
Hey,
Yeah,
Alicia.
Diane. The way it was so brutal, that was a personal overkill. And if Susie was here, I don't know if she's still here, she talks about that. That was a brutal overkill.
Yes.
You've got hammers, knives.
He was mad at her. They were mad. It was.
Yeah. This wasn't a quick take everyone out with execution style. This was drawn out, horrific night of terror for those people. Who knows how long it took. Right, that's Sharian. That's exactly what I'm saying. Right? There's a pattern. I don't care what year you're in, what the circumstances are. There are certain patterns that just go across time. Yeah, man, Candy, he was paying child support of $250 a month, which I meant to look up what that equated to in 81. I didn't have time because I got stuck in my shirt. So I didn't look that up.
I got stuck.
I did. I'm like a 4-year-old. I was like, oh no, I'm stuck. Your roller skates cost $25 in 81. Yeah.
Yeah, that's still, even being in 81, that would be like nothing. I'm pretty sure that would be pretty bad.
Yeah. It was bad. So what do you guys think? I don't know. Do you guys think? No. They had nothing of value in that home. They had nothing. They had basically food on the table that they got. And if you saw like the way that they had nothing, they had like a couch and a TV and a phone.
Mm-hmm.
A 1981 hardline phone that was taken off the hook.
Yeah. There was no cells.
So.
And I will say, I mean, if we do get anything extra, we're going to be bringing it straight to you. It would be great if we were able to do a Keddie Cabin Murder Live update.
I really do think Marilyn should call us.
Me too. Marilyn, girl.
Add her to the list. Marilyn, call us. We'll put our information. It's in the.
Do you see how non-judgmental we are, Marilyn?
Yes, Marilyn, we know you forgot everything. We're here.
It's fine.
Okay, so it'd be okay, thank you, Sheena. It would be like $728 today.
Okay, so for 5 kids, that's
that's nothing.
Terrible.
Nothing. Especially if you have a kid in a sport.
Yeah.
Or a hobby.
Yeah. Oh, good. Heaven forbid, because then
it's like ridiculous. Yeah, no. It's not much for 5 children and school age children. So yeah, that's good. I don't know if do you know, Beth, if she's still living in Keddie?
If Marilyn is, no, I don't believe she's living in Keddie.
I know
she married someone else, and I think she moved out of Keddie.
Yeah.
I could make sure though, but I'm fairly positive that when I read that, it didn't give it at anywhere that she lives now. I have no idea where she lives or but it said that she was married and moved with her new husband. So
Alicia, I've seen Sheila Sharp on a lot of things too. I actually wanted to reach out to her, but I felt weird doing it. But I feel so bad for her. I cannot imagine.
It breaks my heart.
14.
When they were finally able to get the tombstone for Tina, because forever they were only able to afford this little got to watch. They finally were able to get the tombstone for her, and it was so emotional.
Yeah,
it really was.
Scottish Queen.
Sherry.
Mm-hmm. Scottish Queen is set. She said Marty and Bo. That's it.
Marty and Bo.
Her mind. I agree personally. We agree with you, and I think that. Like I said, Marilyn was dropping all kinds of hints.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't say it.
And they did say that the police said some of the people that they felt like were involved were already deceased. Yes. So I think they're talking about Marty and Bo. And maybe somebody else that's deceased. I don't know yet.
Who's fired, Prince of Darkness? I like your name, but who's fired? I don't know if the kids went back to the dad, or I'm assuming they did. Yeah, she was 14 when Tina was 12. You're correct, cement shoes. And I can't imagine what that did to her mentally.
I can't either.
I think it would have affected her even more than Rick and Greg because they were just so little. I'm sure they don't remember a lot of it.
I agree.
Mm-hmm. And it sucks they'll never be brought to justice because Marty's dead.
I know.
But if there really are 4 other people involved, I'd like to know who those 4 people are. I mean,
So
you might
would
have, I could guess. I don't know if we can do that, but
I know.
But I don't know. I can't think of 4 necessarily. I'm guessing accessories after the fact.
Mm-hmm. That's what I think too.
I know.
Bo is dead, Teresa. He did
Yeah,
die.
they're
He
both.
died before Marty did. He died in the 80s, I think in the late 80s.
Thank you, Scotch Queen.
Yeah, they did go into foster care. That's right, Scottish Queen. Yep, that's right.
Yes, Marshall, I believe they're accessories after the fact. I absolutely believe that. And they kind of alluded to that fact in their statement. They said that they believe that there's more than one person that committed the murders, and they believe that there's accessories that are still alive and they have direct links to forensically. So that's why I think this is going to be interesting, and we really might see this solved. But I'm trying to think. I can think of 1. I can't think of 4. And the other ones are minors and children, and I just can't.
I don't know. Honestly, the only one I can, and I think there's players that we don't even know about as well that they interviewed and talked to, and people within the town. But Philip Shearer, which I
Yes.
need to look up whether he's alive or not. I know the Meeks family is in
Yeah.
a lot of that. When you get into that forum, you'll see a lot about them and their suspicious things, weird things. I know Marilyn, maybe she knew some. I really don't know, but I mean, we've already got up allegedly, in my opinion, scrolling, so it's fine to say
Yes.
allegedly, in my
We're
opinion.
clear legally.
Those are really the only people. And if you guys have any, please feel free to message or contact us with any theories you might have or people that you've heard that you think could be involved in this, these 6 people. But I'm not sure. I really am not.
Yeah, just Chris, I don't know. In our opinion, and again, this is speculation, our opinion is that it was a revenge killing.
Yes.
Because she was influencing her neighbor to leave her husband, who was also abusive, and he needed to stop that meddling. Someone left me a funny message on the advertisement for this video. They said something like, I'm super nosy, and this kind of case makes you really nervous. I don't know why I thought that was funny. But that was a comment on the video. They were basically like, I butt into relationships. This case freaks me out. So yeah.
Oh yeah, and the sheriff for sure. Yeah, Scottish Queen brought that up. Yeah, that could be one of the people if the sheriff indeed did know all this and that could be one of the people they're talking about, even though he's in his, what did you say, Vanessa, 80?
Yes, I think he's 80. Yep. Because he was 76 in 2016. I can't math, so that's how old he is.
What am I supposed to remember?
I can do a lot, but I can't math. Okay. Oh, hey, criminal imagination. I've had a little bit to drink. By the way, you should know now that you've joined and you're official member, I change people's names by the end of the live.
Right.
Just ask one of our members. I make up new names for you by the end of the live. Ask Teresa. I know, miscellaneous. That's awful. She tries to make this new start. She ends up going to this, no offense, Keddie, odd, tiny town, and they're brutally murdered.
I know. It's the most heinous.
Yeah.
It's so sad.
It is hard. I'm great at English. I'm great at a lot of things. Teresa, shut up. Not math. Math is not my thing.
I'm terrible at math.
It's bad. I'll give you one, Ainsley. Just wait. It comes to me just kind of organically, and I'll call it to you, and you'll be like, what the hell is she talking about? And that's just your new name. Ask Social Catwoman. Or Courtney Kardashian. Or now Criminal Investigation.
Oh my goodness.
Anyways. Yeah. So what do you guys think? I don't know. That's basically everything we could find. Now, again, I'm glad there's so many other people that suck at math. It's not just me.
Oh my gosh, and me. I'm terrible at it.
I think if you're really gifted at English, maybe your math falls off. Watch all the people like, I'm great at both. Well,
Oh yeah, that's
not.
my husband.
Where is she buried? I don't know, Sherry. I'm gonna guess Connecticut.
That's where I would guess too. I don't know. I watched the service at the burial site, but they didn't say exactly where it was. So I'm not sure. We should look that up.
Yes, Jax, thank you. I'm glad you're ADT too. You understand. We're good at certain things. We're good at creativity. We're good at English. We're not good at being on time. You'll learn that too. Criminal imagination.
We aren't punctual.
Nope. And we're not good at math, which kind of leads into time if you think about it.
Oh my gosh, it does.
Right.
It's numbers.
Right. Thanks, Prince of Darkness. I don't know how to take that compliment or comment.
What was it?
But thanks for the 50% comment.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Prince of Darkness. I do like.
We didn't want to get to that point anyway.
So. Yeah, I'll give you that much. I like your name. You're okay. That's about it. Oh, you are, Kayla. So yeah, that's basically what we have. And again, like I said, I went ahead and put the phone numbers down. If you guys, and if anyone, I mean, and I, again, like I said, and I've seen this in other cases, really creepy stuff, even in our group. Remember that last year? We have had some really weird, creepy experiences with the anniversaries. Let me just tell you firsthand. That's another time. That's a story for another live. That's worth it.
Yes, it
I don't know
is.
if we've even told that many people. We had a really weird experience. I believe it was in 2020 with a 20-year anniversary that we didn't even follow this case. And we believe the guy who did it joined our group about a week before the anniversary and was contacting me personally to start covering this case. And once we started unraveling it, it was really creepy. But I've learned through doing this for several years that they do like to follow anniversaries and different things. And so anytime we can bring attention to something or, maybe help out in any way to bring awareness to it, we do have phone numbers back there. And in the description, there's a reward of $5,000. Like I said, any tips that you guys have, thank you, Curious Rose. Kayla.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
I agree. Yeah, it was really scary. I actually how I am, or maybe you do if you're my Patreon. I tried to just make friends with them and make friends with the murderers. I feel like it's much easier that way.
So what were you in for?
Okay, well, we'll look into that, sir. Good job. You haven't been caught in 20 years. Hey, MJ. But yeah, we'll have to bring that one out because I think that case, it still hasn't been solved. Pretty sure we know who did it. And I did call the lead detective and he never called me back, but yeah. Right? No, I know he had a quote recently. Basically, he said, they did the best they could. He didn't know Marty. He wasn't friends with Marty. That's about it.
Well, half the town says you were, so.
Right. Well, Beth and I have decided that you were.
That's all I'm saying.
There's that. Unmasked thinks you were. That's all that matters.
That's right.
So you just, okay. What case? You know what, Kayla? I was just thinking about this. This is my new shirt, Scotch Queen. It's very difficult to get into. Don't let it fool you.
It's very beautiful.
I got stuck. I thought I was going to have to call Beth to come help me. So, Kayla, I'll message you a case. It's interesting. It's not a case you guys would ever. It's a Colorado case. We didn't even get into it until this person contacted us, and we were like,
Maybe we should get into this game.
Right. We were like, these details that he's giving us are not in the paper or in the police report. And, it got really interesting really fast. But yeah. Thank you, Amanda.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Yes. Thanks, man candy. It's not. It's recent. I just bought it. But you should always try things on before you buy them. Let me just tell you that.
That's
Or
like my favorite shirt,
what
Vanessa.
happened to you, what happens to me today, and you get stuck in them. Alicia, I'll let you know. It was a case. Let me give you this much to look up. It was a case out of Colorado Springs in the 90s. And it's a cold case. I think it was 1996. Colorado Springs Hospital case. Really interesting. I'll post it in one of the groups. The group that he is not in. I'll post it there. I don't believe that is cement shoes, but I'm gonna look
If you're
them
a
up.
patron, we'll put it in the Patreon lounge. It's the safe place. That's our safe place.
Yes. Okay, Ainsley, I'll try that. Shut up, man candy. All right. So anyways, I appreciate you guys being with us tonight.
Thanks, guys.
I love you guys so much, and I appreciate you spending your Saturday night with us. Do not watch in Lake. I know some of you probably left the live to go watch it. I'm telling you, don't do it. God.
I'm just going to make you call me and tell me about it.
Yeah, if you make fun of my shirt, I'm going to take your wrench. How's that sound?
Yeah, it's one or the other.
Yeah, it's from Nordstrom. Simmer down. All right. So, anyways, we have the contact information in the description. Like I said, please help us out by hitting the thumbs up and subscribing before you leave so we can continue doing these. We are going to try to do these deep dives every other week. I know that sounds ambitious, but we're going to try. And then I've got a documentary coming out on a case next weekend. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you guys so much.
Yes. Thank you, Cement Shoes. Thanks for joining us tonight, by the way. You stayed with the whole time. I appreciate that.
Guys.
Hi, Nick. Thank you, Sherry. Thank you, Newfie girl. So yeah, I'll decide. Okay, so I'm excited because we're almost in May. I like themes. If you guys, I don't know, may not know this.
We like themes.
We really like themes.
We like aesthetics.
Yeah. We like weird crap over here. But we are going to, we have an interesting theme for May and some interesting cases that we're looking at. So stay tuned and we're going to announce those shortly. So yeah. Thank you, Scottish Queen, for all of your miscellaneous, for all of your knowledge.
Thank you, Scottish Queen and Missy.
And you guys have a good night. And then, like I said, I will put out what our new theme is and our new deep dives that we're doing. And we're going to have those out shortly. But yeah, let us know what you think. Don't forget to subscribe before you leave.
That's right. Hit the bell.
And don't watch those damn movies. Oh, Annie. It was probably.
If Vanessa says they're scary, then they're scary.
Yes.
Okay? She can watch like anything.
I've got a messed up mind. Thank you, Kayla. If I say they don't watch them,
thank you, KW.
All right, you guys. Love you guys so much. Thank you, Beth, for powering through.
Thank you for having me on, Vanessa. Thank you.
I'll give it to Beth for a minute that she powered through with the stomach flu.
Thank you so much.
You look gorgeous.
I'm doing a great
job. You cannot tell. Yeah. Thank you. Bye, Melissa. So you guys have a great night. We love you.